So thanks for coming, everyone. We're going to really talk about a very important subject today, analyzing deals, right? We have an expert who's going to talk about it. He works at the community college, right? No, he teaches a flipping class too, though, but it's me. I don't know if you guys knew that. It's me. I'm going to teach you. But if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand and ask along the way, because sometimes this is my passion. It's what I've done for many years. So I get sometimes very passionate about it, and I go on, and you're like, hey, I didn't hear something, or I didn't understand it, and then you don't totally get it, right? You're not going to track with what I'm teaching. So don't be ashamed or feel like, oh, I don't want to say anything no one else is. If there's something you don't understand, raise your hand and say, Mike, what does that mean? Because sometimes I'm using acronyms, I'm going very quick. And I want to make sure you get it, because it's a really important subject. The key to what we're going to talk about today is how you look at a house and know exactly what you should offer. Analyzing deals, right? How many people in the room are new to house flipping? Not me. I mean, you guys. Okay, yeah, not me. I'm actually not new. But, so you're new, right? So you need to know the numbers. I mean, who thinks they're really good at analyzing the numbers? Anyone? No? You're good at it? Okay, yeah, awesome. Now, where did you get that experience from? Yes. So you know numbers. Okay, house flipping numbers, though, is what you want to learn about today. Got it. It's going to be easy for you, then. You're going to love this, because you're like, this has come from a number person much better than myself. I hired someone really smart who had a finance degree to really build this out for me and start making the numbers make sense. Because a lot of it I used to do in my head. I'd pull the napkin out, start adding up numbers, and funny enough, I did figure out how to do it in my head, but no one else could figure it out. So when we start growing our business, it's important that we have a system that we can share with the people working for us. Because, see, that's really the key to growing a great business, is that you can only do so much. Eventually, you're going to need to make it so simple that others can do it. And the word we use for that is McDonaldized. So we were talking about that earlier, but think about how McDonald's does things, right? You get, you put the fries in, you hit a button. They stop allowing people to make choices, because they know the more choices they have to make, the less results they're going to get, right? It's going to be inconsistent. So it's like, put it in, hit number 1, 2 shakes of the salt, you get the same fry every time, right? And that's what we want with house flipping. We want results that are very consistent. To be honest, most people don't get those results. And there's a reason for it, right? They don't have a really strong system for analyzing deals, so that's what we want to go into today. Like, what is the systems I use to analyze my deals and get very consistent results? So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Michael Green, if I haven't introduced myself to you. I know a lot of people probably see my name. And then, that's who I am. I've been doing this for about 10 years. And in the 10 years, I've done about 1,100 houses total. And it's probably still climbing. Now, of those 1,100, about 800 were house flips, and the rest were wholesale deals. And some rentals. I've probably done about 30 rentals, personally. So that's my focus. I like to do both, right? I like to have whatever makes sense for the house. If we buy something and the numbers are really good, and I don't have the money to take it on right now, I could sell it off to someone else. So I know some people in the room want to wholesale, and that's how you want to make your money. It's a great way to get started. My first couple deals were wholesale deals, because I didn't have the confidence yet to renovate a house. But I also didn't know if my numbers were good, so I would buy it, and then I let the market tell me whether they were good or not. And eventually I got really smart at saying, okay, I know if I buy this for 80, this person will buy it for 90, right? And that's the secret. Once we know that, we can make some money. Now, when we get that really wrong, two things are going to happen. We're either going to be really high, and then what happens if we get a really high offer to people? Well, they're going to accept it. Good news, you'll win. However, no one will buy it because you pay too much for it. And then when it's really low, what happens, right? Then you make a really low offer, no one wants it. Right? I mean, they're just going to say, hey, you're too low. Mike offered me $20K more, right? Or someone else in the room who actually knows the numbers will offer the correct number. So we're going to talk a lot today about hitting that sweet spot, knowing exactly where you want to make an offer at so that it gets accepted, but it's not too high or low. Because if it's right on that accurate point, then you can make money, right? You're right where you need to be. So 1,100 houses in 10 years. Not all went well. So, I'm always honest about that. The first 4 or 5 years of the business, I was figuring things out, building systems. I did have a mentor teach me to get into this business, and he took me from doing 0 deals to doing deals, so very happy for that. But where I was then on a journey, because that mentor didn't have this knowledge, is I had to start learning how to do them effectively, right? Thank you for getting me in. Without him, I wouldn't be in the business. But now I have to learn how to do it and consistently do it very well. So I don't say this obviously to impress you, but just to let you know, anyone in this room can flip houses, right? I mean, does anyone in the room feel like they can't do it, or that I have some special skill that you don't have? That's a good, confident room. No one raised their hand. I like that. All right, so we're on the same page, right? Everyone here can do it. It doesn't really matter. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. to kind of prove that to you. So if you're committed, by the way, so let me make sure I put that in there. Like, everyone can do it if you're committed. Now, when I say committed, there's a lot of people like, I'd like to flip houses. But then they try a little bit, it doesn't work, and they give up. Right? That was me in the beginning. I did that for about a couple of years. And it wasn't until I got a mentor who said, Mike, yeah, you tried, but it didn't work, so keep trying. He's like, yeah, okay, good, you tried. What does that mean? Like, why aren't you continuing to try? Why aren't you doing something different than what didn't work before? And it took him pushing me to make that work. Right? He really pushed me. And I'm glad that I have him for that. And I'm glad every mentor I've had along the way has really been a big part of pushing me to the next level. The reason I can do houses like this is I'm many mentors in at this point, and many, close to $500,000 in education. I'm not telling you that you need that much education, but over the years, in order to make our business better and better, a lot of what I'm sharing with you is like really a lot of time, effort, and money it took to understand this at this level. And today you get it for free. Right? You get to come in and learn it, and I share it with you, and I do this with a lot of the community. Some people, the reason I do it is I'm always honest, some people choose to coach with me. And then also, some of you guys might sell me some deals, and I might sell you some deals, right? And that's the community piece of this. It's the value in us all sharing ideas and then making those ideas better. And that's what we come here for. So no crazy, at the end I'm not going to be like, hey, buy this super thing. I do have something I'll sell you at the end if you want it. I'm going to make it super cheap just for this group, like so you have some tools you can walk away with that you can use, and it's not going to cost you anything, right? I mean, because that's what I'm about. Everyone here knows that I don't try to sell crazy high-priced stuff to people that are new in the game, because I believe that you shouldn't buy a $30,000 coaching program when you haven't done a deal, right? You should have something affordable that you can get in and you can use and start taking action. So at the end, run out the room if you don't want to spend a teeny bit of money. Like dinner. That's it. But it'd be really good. I'm going to give you super value. I always make sure of that. I try to over-deliver. Okay, cool. It's like taking quite a while. So, hey, I didn't grow up here, right? This is a nice neighborhood. I wish I grew up. I don't even live here now, for the way. I've done like 1,100 houses. I don't live in a neighborhood this nice now. This is actually where I grew up. Let's see, it's taking quite a while. Uh-oh. Okay, well there it is. I didn't live in that dumpster, by the way. That dumpster wasn't there when I was growing up, but that is my neighborhood. Like, that's like a real picture from my neighborhood I found online. I put in Brooklyn. Does anybody know where Brooklyn in Curtis Bay, Maryland is? She does, obviously. A couple of people, right? That's where I grew up. It used to be a little bit better when I grew up there, but it's actually worse now. And I grew up in the projects there. So my mom was on welfare, and she always liked to tell everybody that, but we were. And it's okay. We didn't have money, and that's all right. Like, not everybody has to come from money to do stuff really awesome, right? That's a good thing to know. Like, anyone can do that. I always say that when she's out of the room. I didn't do this, by the way. I know. She never sees the video, so she didn't know I'm telling you guys this stuff. So I didn't go to school, right? I didn't go to college. I know a lot of people go to college, and that's a very traditional way of doing things. I didn't, because where I grew up, it just wasn't very common. I actually didn't even graduate high school. And I tell you all this simply because, look, if I can do it, you can, right? Anyone here, most of the people in this room are more educated than I am. Now, when it comes to house flipping, most of you aren't as educated as I am, but that's part of why I'm teaching you this stuff, so you can gather that education. There's a difference. We all know there's a difference between, like, formal education and actually, like, street smarts and knowing a craft, right? This is going to be the education of how to flip a house, not the education of how to get a degree so you can get a job. This is about the opposite, right? How to get away from a job and get into owning, like, a business that you can run that can create freedom for you. And that's why I was always drawn to house flipping, because as a very poor young kid, I kept seeing these guys on TV with like really cool looking cars, and I still haven't gotten a cool looking car like the Ferrari with the house and the beautiful women. I have beautiful women, but I don't have the car or the crazy house. I didn't get any of that stuff. And I dreamed about it as a very poor kid. I was like, that looks amazing. To the point where I actually spent $29 and got a Carlton Sheets program. I don't know, it's a very old program. And guess how I paid for it? Does anyone know? Well, I actually just saved the money from like Christmas and stuff. I don't know. It was only $29, but I paid for it COD. Does anyone know what COD is? Like, there's older people in there. Cash on delivery. Like, someone knocks on your door and you hand them money. Like, that's how we used to do things back in the day. We used to do stuff that way. But yeah, I got that book. Yeah, it sounds crazy. She's like, what? People do that? Yeah, I know. I don't know how that ever worked out. When you really look back at that logically, how did that ever be like, how was that a thing? I guess, but I could not see that working these days, right? With hackers and everything else, that would be crazy. But yeah, so I paid $29 cash plus shipping and handle. It was like $35. I saved. That was a lot of money for a 15-year-old kid. I read the program. I did absolutely nothing with it. So it's like most of us do, right? It was good information in there. He sold millions and millions of those copies of that book. I'm not telling you to go buy it now. It's pretty outdated. 30 years ago it was outdated. It's really outdated now. But it was just, for me, it was the spark, right? It was what got me wanting to be in this business. It was the first time when the dream was created. Now, it took me until I was 31 years old to really act on that, right? I didn't do a thing. So 15 to 31, a lot of years I thought about being in house flipping. It wasn't until the house flipping shows came out and I started like binge watching them, and I really was like, all right, I'm going to do this, man. Like, these guys on the show do not look smart. I'm like, don't do that, don't do this. I'm judging them, like, oh, that looks stupid, don't do that. And I think they make them look that way because it's entertaining. They're probably much smarter than they look on TV. But it made me think that, well, if they can do it, so can I, right? As a kid from the projects, 10th grade education, got in trouble with the law, I didn't think that I could really flip houses, and I think that's what held me back for years. No college. Instead, I went to jail. Where I grew up, like, we did bad stuff, and eventually, you get in trouble for that. That's how it works. So I got in trouble. At 17 years old, I got in trouble with the law. I ended up having a different kind of education. We'll call it a street smarts education, which actually comes really in handy in flipping. Like, college degree is not as important as a street smart education because you're dealing with people that you better be a little bit thoughtful of how you're dealing with them, right? They want to try to get over on you. There's contractors. There's a lot of moving parts when you're a house flipper. You're dealing with different personalities. So sometimes some of the lessons you learn from the streets are really valuable lessons. A lot of what I teach is how you can deal with people in a way that's very productive, right? I want to kind of mix the educational piece with also the street smart piece, because now I've become formally educated and I mix it with the street smarts. It's a really powerful combination, right? We want to use some, what's the number one rule of street smarts? Common sense, right? You got to have some common sense. So college doesn't always teach you common sense, teach you how to pass a test, but street smarts will teach you common sense. If you have common sense, then you are uniquely qualified to be a house flipper, because it will require a lot of common sense. Just saying, hey, this doesn't make sense, and then challenging it. Like, hey, 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 5. It equals 4, right? Well, you guys probably know better than me. So to summarize all this, I was the perfect example of misused white privilege. Right? I mean, you think as a white kid, blonde hair, blue eyes, I should have had some more opportunity. I didn't really do it very well. I kind of did everything the wrong way. It took me a lot of years to get myself straight. At like 21 years old, I started really focusing more on being a better person and, being better to the community. Really made a life change. I met someone who changed my life, a mentor, and someone who really, once we got to know each other, kind of showed me how things were very different. How my belief system that I created growing up in the projects was very limited, because I thought I was only capable of X. And he's like, Michael, you're capable of like everything, like we all are, right? We can do anything we want. And when he shared that with me, it was the first person that ever believed in me, right? And believed that I could do something not illegal, but I could do things legally, right? He's like, take everything you did here legally and then put that into something like positive, right? And he's like, it's more work, by the way. He's right. It was a lot more work to do it this way. So that's the lazy way. And he's like, do all that. And then so over the years, I've done those things. I started my own business for many, many years. And I then eventually got into house flipping, which is another business that I started. And all that started just from me deciding to be a better person, being a more positive person, right? When we have positivity, then we tend to do good things in this world. A lot of it comes back. You guys agree with that? And everybody agree, like when you're positive, you get it back? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anybody have an example of a positive thing they've done where it just gave them some great returns that they want to share? Yeah, good. Mm-hmm. Dude. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, man. Let's give everybody a hand for that. That's good stuff, right? Yeah. And it turned out being profitable. But that wasn't your intention. That's the key. I think his story summarizes everything I speak about. When we do good things with no expectation of anything in return, we end up getting much more than we ever expected. I feel like I heard Joel Osteen. I'm not very religious, but I listen to Joel Osteen. He talks some good stuff. He's like a motivational speaker who then kind of says God every 5 words. But he says that a lot. And I've heard him say, like, we got to give back with nothing expected in return. And he inspired me to be that person, listening to that. And Yeah, I don't know how I've not somehow fell into the church with them, but it was just, it's different in opinion. I'm not really very, very religious, but I believe in some of the awesome things that you learn from guys like that. Good, you got something?
Well, it's not necessarily an experience, but I try to live up with that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you get such a good feeling of doing it that really, that's enough.
Yes. Yes, for sure. I agree with you 100%. And listen, happiness is, having the freedom and money to do what you want, obviously. But, what is that? You could make $200K a year. If your bills are $50K a year and you make $100K, you're actually wealthy. Did anyone know that? But as Americans, we've been taught to live, if we make $100K, we spend $110. That's what I did for many years, by the way. I was like, I got 100, spend 150. Because credit cards, right? They keep sending them to you. You start making some money, they're just like, hey, yeah, of course you should get that Lexus right now. You only make $52K a year, and you should buy a car that's worth 70. Why not? We'll just I think you even say no money down. You just walk away with the keys. They put a bow on it. You should give it to yourself for Christmas. Pay later. It's okay. I did that for many years. I'm recovering from that. I'm recovering shopaholic, I guess we'll call it. Credit's really bad. I don't have very much credit now, or really any at all. I just have a Southwest card I use to flip houses, and when I use that card, I get points. I fly everywhere for free, and I pay it off every month. And that's the luxury I have now because I wanted to create some wealth. And wealth for me wasn't being a millionaire, but it was just having more money than I need to live. If I need $80K a year to live, then I want to make $200K, so I have some money sitting in the bank. You do that for a few years in a row, and you just let that money sit there and you don't spend it, you sleep really well at night. Now, I don't feel like I sleep all that well for now that I do have money. However, that's because I'm so many great ideas. I'm helping so many people that I think I'm all jazzed up and I can't sleep well. But it's not because of the money piece of it. Okay? Awesome. So for many years, I was embarrassed to share that information that I just shared with you guys. It's one of the reasons I didn't get into public speaking and teaching people. I was like, what if they find out that I got in trouble as a kid and I wasn't all that awesome as a teenager? And I was a little bit embarrassed of it. And I realized later on, and this is another thing my mentor taught me, was that everyone has something that they're embarrassed of. We all have some insecurity. Everyone in this room has something that we feel we wish we had done better, right? All of us. So I got in trouble with the law. Obviously, I dropped out of high school, grew up on welfare, all the good stuff. Oops. I think we're going to have, and I told you this part of the story. Now, I want to show you this, though, because one of the things he talked about with me was my personal greatness. So when he asked me this question, do you believe other people have things holding them back, and what's stopping them from their personal greatness? And what was stopping me from my personal greatness was limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs that I couldn't do things that I'd seen other people do. To be honest, I didn't know anyone where I grew up who had done anything great. Selling drugs was the greatest thing I seen anyone do. Every once in a while, someone from my neighborhood got a good job. But it's pretty rare, actually. Even till today, when I look back, most of my friends are either dead or in jail or, are not doing so well. Other than a handful of them that, I'm still friends with, and they're like, let me get into flipping houses. And they're either working with me at some level or they're flipping houses, and I've helped them. I always want to give back. Not everyone wants what I'm giving, however, right? The people in this room, you guys came for a reason, right? You want to learn. You want to get into the business. You're inspired to do something greater. And this is finding your personal greatness. That's what that actually means. Because each of us are capable of some really awesome stuff. So he said to me, if you were to share your story with a bunch of people, right, some are going to judge you. And he's like, but what about that one person who, is empowered because you showed them how you took your stuff that was all bad, the things you were embarrassed of, and use it as fuel to find your personal greatness? Would it be worth sharing that then? And then when I realized, right, we love giving back. Well, my way of giving back to you guys is that, hey, my story is really just to show you that, hey, I'm not perfect, and I'm not a perfect house flipper. However, I have figured out some stuff that's allowed me to do some way better than most people from my neighborhood have done, way better than most people do in general. I make more money than most doctors and lawyers. But my education's not even close, obviously. But, I'm able to do that. And we think that's not possible. So I decided to really start sharing this story just a couple years ago. If you had met me, you wouldn't guess this about me. Most people are like, what? I thought you grew up rich or something. And I was like, yeah, I wish, maybe. I don't know. But a lot of our drive comes from our things that, drive us, or the things we're not happy about, right? That's what makes us want to be better. That's the personal greatness piece. Hey, it's working. Does everybody want me to share my vital system to help me get my personal greatness? You guys ready? All right, we're going to forget Mike now. Let's get into what we came for. The good stuff. So let's get started with the training. I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to analyze deals, right? I'm just going to walk you through my process and what's important to me. And when you have this skill, it's the number one skill you need to have as a real estate house flipper, a wholesaler, a landlord, really even like a real estate agent needs to know this kind of stuff, because if they're working with investment clients, it's really nice to be able to tell them, like, hey, here's the numbers. Like, an agent that's empowered with that information is a better agent, right? They're able to service their client at a high level, give them really good advice. And you'll be a vital piece of the team when you have this information. So, big part, right? No information equals no action. If any of you guys like looked at deals and just couldn't get enough information that you could take action, raise your hand. Has anyone ever been there? Yeah, me too, by the way. I'll tell you right now, if I look at a deal and I can't get enough information to make me feel comfortable, then I don't take action. So this is why gaining information and knowledge is highly important. Most of the time, I would say most of everyone in this room has probably, if you've been looking at deals, you've probably seen a deal and just didn't know it was in front of you, right? Or you couldn't get enough information about that deal that convinced you to take that big leap of buying it. It's risky, right? Buying a house is risky. When you know the numbers, you attract money. Who needs money in the room? Who would like to have some money to get started in their business? Like, why are my employees hiring their hand? Hold on. Where are you guys going? They're like, oh, yeah, I need some money. Like, I'll hook you up, man. If you need some money, let me know. It's like they were like the first ones to raise their hand, by the way. Like, not working for Mike anymore. Well, as soon as we get this money, we got to know the numbers. If you know the numbers, you'll attract money. When you're sitting down with someone who wants to lend you $100,000, $200,000, like the first thing they're going to want to hear from you is that you could walk them through the numbers, right? And say, hey, here's the deal. Here's what we're buying it for. Here's what we're putting into the renovation. Here's this analyzer I have that shows me exactly what I should pay because it adds all the cost up. And now they look at that and they say, wow, this person really knows their stuff, right? Versus you say, hey, I think it's this, I think it's that, it should be this. Like, is that inspiring for someone to lend or put $100K of their money out or $200K of them? Not really, right? I found that when I wasn't very specific because I didn't have all the information, people didn't really want to lend me money. So I had to go to hard money lenders, and they, yeah, hard money lenders work, but they're going to charge you a lot more. And even hard money lenders, by the way, when you talk to them, knowledgeable, they're going to give you a better rate. They're going to be more likely to work with you. Like, most of my students are getting, I can just tell you, like, 2 of my students recently, first deals they've done, they got 10 and 2. It took me like 100 deals to get 10 and 2. And they go there and they present in a way that took me many deals to figure out how to present, and then the hard money lender trusts and believes them and thinks they can get good deals. Yeah. Yes, 10%, 2 points. Thank you for asking. But again, that's the acronym. So 10% and 2 is essentially means 10% on the money annually, and then you pay 2 points, which is each point is 1% of the total loan. So if you were to do a $100,000 loan, the hard money lender is going to charge you $2,000, like kind of like a loan servicing fee. It is up front. You pay it at settlement. That's how the hard money lender makes their money, by the way, is those points. It is at settlement up front. So when I say up front, you pay it when you settle the property the first time. When you buy it, they're going to make you pay that at the first settlement. And then at the second settlement, then you're paying the loan off. But it can be done many different ways. That's traditionally how hard money lenders do it. If you're working with a private lender, then you can work out anything you want. You might get them to put all the money up. I've seen people do private money as low as 3 to 5%, and 10 to 12% is a really fair rate if you can work that out. But they put all the money up for you. So say you've got $0 in your pocket. You can go get a deal, right? My first deal I did, guess where the money came from? Well, it didn't come from me. You guys know I was like in debt and didn't have a lot of money. I found someone who did have the money. And I hired a mentor, and when he started showing me the numbers, I was literally just sharing that with one of my friends, and they're like, holy crap, you really know this stuff. And I was like, well, not really. I didn't tell them that. I didn't really know it. I'd just been taught, and I was kind of sharing what I knew. But it gave the perception that I really knew what I was doing. And he was like, hey, you might not know this, but I've got some money away. Like, I would have never guessed. I would have never even asked this person. He got a settlement that he didn't tell anyone about for a couple $100,000. And he didn't know what to do with the money. So he decided to flip a house with me. And we ended up making $35K on our first deal together, and he got half of it. And so he was very happy. Like, that was like, I was okay with doing anything. I would have gave him all of it if that's what it took, because I wanted to get into the game. And I didn't have any money to get in the game. And he ended up being that money. My second partner, he had about $800,000 because I now knew the numbers and I had a track record of doing a few homes with one partner. He had $800,000 he invested with me, and me and him ended up doing 600 houses together. So again, it was knowing the numbers that allowed this to happen. right? Speaking intelligently, even though I wasn't exactly the most intelligent person, formally, I was pretty intelligent about real estate, right? They don't care. They invest in the person, right? And they can see that you've taken and you know some stuff that other people don't know. I've seen many people invest with people just because they held the title realtor. Like, oh, you're a realtor. You must know all this stuff, right? Well, the realtor is not, it doesn't teach you anything about investing. They just teach you how not to break the law, right? There's certain laws you have to not break, but they're not really teaching you how to be a realtor. You have to learn that on your own through some additional trainings and life experience. So learning to analyze the deals, this is the reason you want to learn that, right? These are the two things you get from it. You know the numbers, you'll attract money. We all need money. I actually need money even now. I would flip more houses if I had more money. Sweet spot offer is the second reason. So here's some of the things that go into that. Your low offers will get rejected way too often. So anytime that you are offering way too low for a house, because maybe you look at it and you say to yourself, well, I'm not so sure about this or this. Why don't we just offer like 10K less to be safe? Has anyone ever thought that before? Like, yeah, me too. I used to do that a lot. Yeah, he's like, yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Well, I've done that. What happens is, like, let's take a guess. Someone else is going to pay more who knows the numbers exactly. So when you're like, let me pay 10K less, there's probably someone that's going to pay 10K more. And it's a very competitive market out there, and you lose deals, right? This is the secret: is you got to find the sweet spot where you know you're paying the perfect number, and you're not paying too much or too little. And then when you pay too much, can anyone guess? I think this is an easy one. Can anyone guess what happens when you pay too much for a house? You lose money, or don't make as much as you should. Like, there's some people laughing. Higher offers lose money. Like, you could teach this. Super simple. Hey man, welcome. We have nothing good. You haven't missed anything good yet. But we're getting to the good stuff, so you like perfect timing. So you lose money whenever you make high offers, you're losing money. And when you make low offers, you're losing the opportunity to make money. So you can get why it's very important that you're accurate. It took me many years to figure this out, and once I figured it out, my business started to grow exponentially. It was when I got more passionate about saying, okay, I know that I can get within 10 or 20K. What would it take to get within a couple $100 of like the outcome that really happens? And these days, I can tell you that when I buy a house, and I always look at it, here's what I thought, and here's what really happened, it's really close, right? I mean, it's within $1,000 usually. Now, some things could come up and that might go down, but it wasn't the analyzation reason. Maybe there's outside factors like my contractor quit, or, I didn't know there was some stuff behind the wall. Things happen, right? The business is not perfect and always, we can't always predict every little thing that's going to happen. But the good news is I'm thinking I'm going to make 35K, a couple things go wrong, I make 25K, right? That's enough money still, isn't it? Like, we're not going to cry too much about that. But we still take some notes and learn so we can get back to 35K. We want to make about $30,000 a flip when we do this. And we want to make somewhere between $5,000 to $20,000 on our wholesale deals. And that's pretty standard for the industry. Go ahead, Virginia. Do you have a question? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's when I take a house and I buy it and I resell it, that's a completed project. I make $35,000 on the job. So meaning that if I bought it for $100, put $50 in it, and then sold it for $250, and after I pay all these fees and realtor and everything, I net profit I walk away with when I sell the house on the back end is $35K. Now that's affected if I take longer than I thought, because obviously there's holding costs. So we want to be able to get in and out quickly, and we want to know how fast we can do the renovation. Is that clear? Okay, awesome. So there's 3 simple steps to my perfect offer system. Delonte, Rashad, he uses it, right? He uses it every day. Rashad he's actually a student who came to work with me as my acquisitions guy now. And Rashad is literally, his first week working for me, he found a deal. So give him the high five, because dude, every other acquisitions guy I've ever worked with in my life took at least a month to find their first deal. Then he found one every week for like the next 8 weeks, was it? Or, dude, it was crazy. He actually, I had to go find money. I was like, oh man, you're buying so many. I don't even know, dude, where's, he's the first guy to ever test me where I was like, I have to go find more money now. I was like, I have more deals than I have money for. So we started wholesaling some of them.
So we got a wholesale now.
Yes, we got a wholesale. And then everyone around us is buying deals. I think his dad's going to buy a deal we have recently. And he's like, yeah, he's going to talk to his dad into getting into flipping and different stuff. remote. He's all the way from Florida. He's like, yeah, I'll take a blower. We've got a great rental, that's why. And so that's what we get. When we're able to find great deals, we get opportunities. Like a house we just bought recently is worth $155. We bought it for $62.5, and it needs no work. It literally was renovated 4 years ago, and it's getting $1,300 a month rent. So it has the tenant in it. We can just buy it, collect $1,300 a month, $62,500. How much you guys think the mortgage payment on that is? Who's the math person? 7, 5, 450. Yeah, probably something. It's probably like $300, but then you got a couple hundred for taxes, insurance, so probably $500. Like that's a lot of cash flow every month. But more importantly, right, we don't just care about cash flow, but it also has equity in it. It literally is worth, like, put $10K into it, it's worth $150. And someone would literally have $72,000 into a house that, is worth $150. It's a massive amount of equity. Most people do not have that kind of equity on their rentals. We get the luxury of getting deals like that because every day we're in the game, right? And the way it works is we get a lot of good deals, but then every once in a while we get some great deals because we're here. Sometimes people just call and say, I want 62.5, and we look at it and we're like, good, we'll take it. And it just happens to be a really good number. I think the reason we got it, we thought it was a $130,000 house, and after we bought it, he recomped it and looked and said, oh man, I was looking at comps on another street, and actually on our street, it's much better. And I was like, well, that's good news. That's what we want to have happen sometimes. So step one is the post-renovation value. Anybody know what that? The ARV essentially is what you're going to hear that to be called. That's the after repair value. The key to this when you're learning this is you want to know exactly what you're putting into the house. So we have to find 3 comparable sold properties. In order to do so, we have to know how we're going to design the property. So when I say 3, it can be 2 to 3. Now, when we're looking for 2 to 3 houses that are exactly like ours, we're looking for similar style. Right? We don't want to take a house that's a Cape Cod and then, compare it against a Colonial. Colonial is a little bit nicer. Cape Cod's like, got the slanted ceiling, so it's not quite as desirable. We also don't want to compare a 2,000 square foot house versus a 1,200 square foot house. You got a question?
Do you ever look at active listings or all?
We do, but mostly just to see what our competition is when we're selling. When we're buying, active listings don't really matter to us because we don't know what they're going to sell for yet.
Even if the market changes, like it's shit right now, like you wouldn't look at.
No, I never look at actives because, look, what I've seen quite often is realtors will buy listings, we call it. So meaning they go in, a customer's like, hey, I want $300,000. The realtor knows it's worth $270. Well, they take it at $300, knowing that, okay, well, we'll just negotiate and we'll get price reduction if it doesn't sell for $300. So when it's out at $300, it doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's going to sell for. It could end up selling for $250. So we really want to focus on what did it actually sell for, because that's our only real way of having like that concrete evidence of what we're going to potentially get. Mm-hmm. So that's an intelligent question. Sometimes when we're in areas where we can't find good comps, generally we want to be careful. We know that means more risk, right? If we don't have enough other homes that have showed us the path, then we're taking additional risk. So I like to see 2 or 3 for a reason, because it's showing me that there's enough people in this area renovating that I don't have to guess what I'll get when I'm done. Now, if we only get one comp and then one's like 3 years ago, well, we'll have to make an educated guess at that point, and we'll also have to know I might buy just a little bit more conservatively, knowing that, okay, I've seen the comps, but they're not conclusive, right? The more solid the comps are, the more likely I'm like, that is 250, 100%. You give me 5 comps that say exactly that, exact same house, I'm like, I could bet my life on it, right? Versus I get one, I'm going to be like, I think it's 250, so let's just make it 240 to be safe. I actually would be pretty conservative in that situation just to kind of offset that risk. So yes, so you're answering his question, but so I will go back to start with 6 months. If I can't find what I need, I'm willing to go back 1,000 days even. I'm really trying to find that perfect comp. If someone 3 years ago got a great number, right, for their house, and it's the exact same house in my block, the one thing we can be 100% sure of is that a house today is worth way more than a house 3 years ago. Our market has done nothing but go up, and for the first-time home buyer market, you guys might be hearing a lot about the market going into a recession on bigger pockets. It's actually not very true. Whenever you're talking about the first-time home buyer market, the last 10 houses I've sold have had multiple offers and went for way over list. Like I'm seeing in this part of the market, like that's the one thing when they talk very general, like the market's going down. Well, yes, there's certain parts of the market. $1 million to $4 million homes are definitely taking a little bit of a hit right now. Interest rates and stuff really affect them. But the houses that, are being sold to people that need to move out of their mom's basement, like those sell in every economy. first-time home buyer houses sell in every economy. I got into the game in 2009. Was that the worst year any of us has ever seen in real estate? Like, we crushed it in 2009. Everyone was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're getting in the house. People look at me like, yeah, I'm becoming a house flipper. Like, what? It's like, thought I was crazy. And I was like, well, whatever, I'm getting in. But what I learned from my mentors, there's no such thing as a good or bad market. There's only different ways to invest, right? In a market that's declining a little, we have a little different way to invest. But I will tell you right now, as a first-time home buyer market, we are not seeing any decline. Yeah, I'll turn this off for a second. We're not seeing any decline. I'm only seeing the markets going up. And that first-time home buyer market is like about 150K to 300K in this area. So those very, very high buyers, we've got a lot of people that want it. Our inventory is still very low. So if you put a good home out, you price it correctly, it's going to sell for you instantly. You're not going to see any problem selling that house. And even if the market starts to go down, then what we would do to answer your question is we would take the comps we currently have, and then we would anticipate, okay, it's going down 5% in the next year, right? So let's take about 2.5%, 3% off our offer to anticipate a little lower ARV on the back end. That's what we were doing in 2009. 2009, just so you guys know, the worst market we've ever been in, and it was going down 12% a year in first-time home buyer markets. So that's what we're talking about. I want you to realize what like one of the worst declines ever meant to the first-time home buyer market. 12% a year. So if you do a flip in 4 months, I don't want to do the math. Is that 4%? Yeah, it's 4%. Okay, I think I'm right. So 4% is all your house would go down. So if you're going to buy, you thought it was going to sell for 100, like what's 4% off of 100? 4,000? So you go from $100,000 ARV to 95, you're safe. You're selling it no problem. You're anticipating the decline. And that was the worst decline ever. Now, to be fair, what most people are focusing on is that in the really high-end markets, things might have went down 30% in a year, even 50% we've seen sometimes, because like who's buying $1 million home in a declining market? $1 million home is more of a want than a need, right? The houses we sell are a need. People need a home. They need a place to live. They need a house to live in. When you get to like really big houses, they're just something you want, right? When you think things are going well, you'll buy those things. When you don't think things are going well, you'll stay in your $300,000 or $400,000 house. You won't go to $1 million house. So that market just shuts down. So the little bit of decline we're seeing is definitely in the high-end market. And the low-end market, we've seen zero decline. It's actually still going up in value. Over the last 6 months in Baltimore, the values have still considerably climbing. So again, I don't preach for the rest of the area, but I know you guys are coming here. You're from this area. And if you're near D.C., it's doing even better. Like if you're in Temple Hills, Capitol Heights, that market, I've gotten like 50K over list on the last house I did in Capitol Heights. Like I put it out at $399. It sold for like close to $450 when it was all said and done. 17 offers. Does that sound like a declining market? Right? So when people say that the market is declining, my answer to that would be yes, there's certain markets that are, but our job is to know the market we're in. Right? And the market we're in is not declining right now. And there's certain parts. If you're $1 million market, maybe it is. I don't suggest you do $1 million flips, even in a good market. I suggest you stay in the core of where you make all your money. And as a house flipper, we make our money selling to first-time home buyers. It's an unlimited resource. We always need a place to live. I don't care what the economy is, someone's always going to want to move out of an apartment or their mom's basement. Except for my mom's basement. I actually didn't want to move out. She made me move out. She's like, you got to go, man. Like, I was like, it's really nice down here. She like makes dinner. I don't have to pay any rent. I was like saving money. And I think she got a little upset when she realized I had a lot of money in the bank because I wasn't paying her any rent. And I was working and saving. So anyhow, yeah, you got a question?
Just real quick on ARV and comp.
Mm-hmm.
In Anne Arundel County, I've done 2 of them last year. What
Yeah.
my experience was, in Crofton, my comp had to stay within a half a mile, which sometimes you'll hear a mile. But for the density of Crofton, I could only stay within a half a mile. So I could find a higher comp a mile away, but the
Yeah.
appraiser wasn't going to probably buy that.
Yeah.
So the one I bought in Crofton, basically when I bought it, across the street had just sold for $275.
Mm-hmm.
So that's solid across the street
Yeah.
comp, full remodel, which is what I was going to put on the market. When I finished in 4 months, I put it on the market for $290. And my realtor flinched, but she wanted to show it before it went on the market to someone who was losing houses in Crofton because they were just being outbid every time.
Yeah.
So they accepted $290.
Yeah.
But then it didn't appraise for $290, it appraised for $280. So my $275 was probably legit.
Yeah.
And my $280 is where I was going to have to negotiate to. But to my shock, they brought $10,000 to the table. And I had to give them the
Nice.
2 points. I gave them 2 of the 3 points they needed to settle. But they brought $10,000 to the table.
Okay.
We had a new comp in Crofton for that little half
Yeah.
mile of $290 off of a 4-month
Yeah.
period of time with one flip.
There you go.
Same thing happened in Pasadena 6
Mm-hmm.
months ago. When I bought the Pasadena house, to calculate my ARV, I was using 222, which at the time, my realtor and the other stuff in the area within my half mile, again, pretty dense area, was holding at 222. When I finished the project in 4 months, and I've heard this on several podcasts that you listen to, everyone's saying revisit your comps if you're into this for 4 months, because the way the market's moving, that 222 by the time we finished in 4 months had gone up to more like 228, 229. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the 4 houses in the same little townhouse community of Deerfield and Pasadena went on the market at the same time. So I had a 3-bedroom on the corner. There was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I'm 2 bedrooms, 2 baths with the same square footage, just divided up differently. But do that. I went out. My comp was sitting at 228. So basically, I was feeling that I would push it, and I pushed it to 234. And I went to 234. But the thing is, if I had left it at my 222 and thought, okay, 228 was good enough, I would have gone out at 228. I would have gotten 228. I went out at 234. First day I had 1 offer, 234 inspection and 3 points help. The next day we had a second offer, 235, no inspection, no help. Of course, that was their deal.
Yeah.
The appraiser came in and I met with him and we walked through it. I gave him the whole list of everything that had been done. It was $35,000 worth of upgrades. It had things that were not in any of the other houses, including an island in the kitchen. I don't want to tell you all, but basically that way, he came in at my 235.
Yeah.
So we got to settle 235. So my point is, get your ARV at the beginning, working with wherever your sources are. Be it your realtor, be it your own confidence in looking what's there. Definitely revisit it as you get into your project and push it. But don't push it crazy. I mean, I could have very easily had to go back to that 280 and I wouldn't have been dissatisfied. I would have still gotten the number that probably was the real number. It was just a rare case because of both the market and people losing houses so quickly because there's so few of them back then. This was back in June.
Yeah.
And there's still a shortage of them, nice to remodel. But this one had the best kitchen we'd ever put in. It had barn doors. It had it was all brand inside. So that's what you're going to do. Then that's what you're going to do. But just
it makes a really. You make a great point. Thank you for sharing that. He makes a great point. Like revisit your comps after the fact. My experience, they've been going up a little bit. So I normally list at the price. My belief is you can't underlist the property. I can just tell you, student after student I've taught this to, where like I'll give you Michael Chow's a student. It's in my higher level training. He listed something in Canada. He's international. He's from Canada, and he listed it in Canada. He says it's declining. He's like, Mike, you don't understand. Our market is declining now, and it's clearly going down in value. And I'm like, so like, what did you think you were going to sell it for? He's like, 420. I was like, put it out for 420 then. He's like, well, maybe we can get 450. I'm like, no, if you think it's declining, put it out for 420. He put it out for 420. He had like 18 offers and ended up negotiating 452. And he artificially got more money. So you can never really underlist the property because what happens is you create a buyer's frenzy. And that buyer's frenzy puts you in a unique position to get more than what the house is worth. You'll never get it if you're chasing the market and say, if he would have listed it at 460, he would have sat on the market and no one would have shown it. And then eventually he would have got a buyer. But what negotiation power would he have with that buyer? It would have been really hard to get that buyer into an emotional decision-making process. And that's the secret to how we get the most money for our renovations is I used to think logically because I'm a logical guy. So I'd be like, hey, logically the comps are this. I give him this and that. It's a 3-bedroom. Now I think, what can I do to create an emotional situation so everyone fights against each other? I can tell you 98% of my homes have multiple offers, which creates a very emotional decision. People get emotional. They want to win. Right? And I'm not saying that you're going to get $1 million more, but like he just said, what if you just get 5 or 10K more? What does that mean to your business if you're doing 10 houses a year and you get 5 to 10K extra on your house because you set a perfect environment up to do so? And you get that extra 5, 10K times 10 houses can be 50 to 100 grand a year you make. That's the money you need to hire the people to scale your business to unlimited amounts of money. That was the secret to what we did. How I was able to go to 150 houses a year is I went and found the extra couple grand per house that I was leaving on the table. I used that extra couple grand to hire a team to grow. Because instead of wasting it, didn't it make sense to go find it and recover it and then use it to hire people to do all the things I hate to do, right? Or that I don't enjoy doing. I can do them, but I don't really like doing them. So now I do everything I like, right? So my business is fun to own because I get to do the things I wake up and I enjoy doing. So really the key to this, once you find your comparables and you get really like, okay, this is a good comparable. Like he said, one right across the street, that's a great comparable. 1 a mile away, not so much. We might consider it in our overall look of things, but we want to make sure the stuff is very close to us and very similar. And if it is, then you got to decide on a value. So this is step number 1 in the perfect offer process. I'm going to show you a tool I use in a few minutes that allows me to kind of just instantly know exactly what I offer on every property and know the sweet spot. It took me a lot of years to develop it. I didn't even develop it until about 3 years ago. I'd flipped about 600 houses What I did is I spent almost a year going through the 600 houses that I'd flipped and looking at what I did wrong and what I did right, and developed this tool based off of that. Because I wanted to have a consistent way to go forward. I wanted to understand the common denominators of why I was winning sometimes and not others, right? And when I started to understand that, I had to now create a tool that kept me disciplined to follow this stuff. And it's underwriting criteria. Like, think about every big place. They have a way they underwrite things. They have to have a very, very clean system that when I look at things, here's how I make choices. Because left to our own devices, we're not always disciplined, right? When we eat, I know personally I'll pick a cookie or a donut way faster than I'll pick a salad. So I almost, if I'm ever going to be on a diet, I have to choose what I'm going to eat. Or I'll just, if it's left in front of me, I don't tend to make the best choices. So I've learned this in my business also. You want to know something about a cookie? Are you just going to confirm I eat all the cookies?
No.
All right, I think Sue's going to snitch on me.
There's a lot of folks here working in Baltimore. When you're working in the city and it's like dense, a lot of these row homes is like really dense. You go, you're quarter mile out or half mile out, you might pull up like 100 comps. So how do you kind of like decide between the 100 comps for like some of these row homes or dense?
So I have, like, part of my system is that whenever I pull the comparables, I do a radius, and I start with a half mile. Okay, a half mile is good for me. Now, if that half mile yields me too many samples, essentially, right, and we get 100 comps, that's too many. I want to see it land between 20 and 30. That's how I know I haven't went too far out. So essentially, it is better to go as tight as possible if you can get the information you need. But remember, if we have no information, then we have no action. So key is we want to make sure that if we go like really tight and just go maybe 1/10 of a mile and we get 3, it's not enough information to make a choice. So we go a little farther out until we start getting the right amount of information. Sometimes I have to go a mile out. If I'm in a rural area where it's very country and there's not a lot of houses, it's okay to do that. We go as far as we need to make a choice. But know the farther you go out, the more risk you're creating. Now, if you can be across the street like Alan, right? If you can be across the street like Alan's property, well, that's a no-brainer. The only thing we'd look at then is it the same house, or is our house different or smaller or, in some way just not as valuable? If the answer is no to that, then I call that an A-plus comp. Like, I don't need but one of those comps because, see, that comp lays the trail for me. They showed me what a house like mine can get. So I would take that over 5 comps 4 blocks away, right? Because that's the A-plus comp. Sometimes we have to take B and C comps because we just have, and then we have to make an educated guess. So part of us, like, deciding on how accurate we think we are on the comps depends on, can we find some A-plus comps? Generally, I like to find at least one A-plus comp, meaning it's on my block or the next block over, and it is very comparable, and the streets are very comparable, and it's sold in the last year. I love that comp. And same square footage, that makes it easy when we can find those. And if you can't find those, then you might want to consider, if you're new, just maybe not doing the deal. Right? Makes sense. Good. Oh, what a great question, because we're just talking like, well, where do you find them? Thank you. That's a great question. So the best place to find them is the MLS, which you'll need a realtor to do that. There's some realtors in the audience that obviously would love to get you comps and work with you and help you find properties. If not, we do Zillow and we do like Redfin, but I'll tell you Zillow and Redfin's not that accurate. But it's a good way to start if you just want to kind of get a feel, look around. I mean, it'll get you in the ballpark if you use it properly. You just need to see what our other house is selling for, but just know that like Zillow and Redfin, the information is not 100% accurate. Good. MLS is a multiple list service. So this is what realtors use. It's where they list the properties. It's extremely accurate because if you put in proper information in, they find you. And they're actually sneaky. I don't know how they know, but like every time I've made a mistake, they're just like, Michael, fix it, or we're going to find you $100. I'm like, crap, because I make a lot of mistakes. I just put anything in. I wait for them to catch me. But, to be fair, I'm glad they do that because that keeps the information extremely accurate so we can rely on it. We're making really big decisions. So get access to the MLS through a realtor. That's always going to be your best bet. Because realtors, that's what they're here for. They're to help you have that information, help you understand the market. They can decipher the comps and comparables for you. And they can, they're going to be a vital part of you being in this business. Virginia?
You said that create competition to sell properties.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have the mass the market? Do realtors take care of it for you, or
Yeah. So I'm my own realtor now. Eventually, you become your own realtor, and then you just handle things, and it's smart because once you do enough business, being a realtor is actually pretty easy for you, especially. So how I create interest is I don't do open houses. They don't really sell your house. I don't know if most people know this. Only 1% of open houses that are sold at an open house. People do open houses. That's how we generate new clients, like buyers and stuff. But we never really sell our clients' property. So what I realized over the years was I had to keep paying someone to like clean the house after 50 people ran through. And I was like, well, no one's ever buying at these open houses. Like, it feels like a waste of your time. Could you take that time and put it into something else that would be useful to me and not to you growing your business? So I'm like, no open houses. Like, you know, some people, like, you don't do an open house and the house doesn't sell. They blame it on the fact you didn't do the open house. And that's not really a logical way of thinking. There's really one key to selling your house quickly: price it correctly. If the house is priced correctly and designed properly to what the market wants, your house will sell. So that's how we decide, is we take and make sure we have the proper design everyone's looking for. So if we're in a neighborhood that needs 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, it wouldn't be really beneficial for us to do a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, right? Because the market has shown us that people want at least 4 and 3, and then we do 2 and 2, well, and it sits on the market forever. Even if we price reduce it, it's still, like, most of the people in that area want a 4-3. So we want to make sure that we're always being thoughtful of the proper design to sell our house quickly. And then once we figure that out, we need to see, okay, what are they selling for? And if they're selling for $250, it would be in your best interest to put your house out for $244.9, right? Just a little bit cheaper, so we can create that buying frenzy. If you went $230, $39.9 would be fine. But what you don't want to do is go say, well, you know what, I went $20K over budget, so let me make it $270. Like, $270 will cause you not to have your house shown, and eventually you'll end up getting $230 instead of the $250 you probably would have got if you priced it correctly. Because think about it emotionally. What do we think when we get into a deal, we show our client, it's on the market 3 days, and then the agent calls back and says, hey, we got 5 offers, you know, bring your highest and best. What psychologically is that person thinking? Right? They're thinking this house has a lot of value, and a lot of people have proven that to me. Right? So now they go from logically, like, you know, this all adds up to this, to emotionally, I want to win, and we really love the house, and we're tired of losing. So let's get this deal. And that means you get more money, right? And more money's great. And now the opposite side of it, we put it out at $270, doesn't sell. 30 days go, maybe they take it to $260. Now another 15 days go, they take it to $250. Well, now they start getting showings at $250 where they should have been, but they're 45 to 60 days on the market. What's the first thing a person thinks when a house is 60 days on the market? Why has no one else bought it? Right? And once we do that, right, what do we start looking for? All the reasons other people haven't bought it. So now they're walking through your house, not emotionally, they're walking through logically, saying, hey, well, it's probably because of that piece of trim that's not perfect. Oh, God, like maybe the work's shoddy here. Oh, no, maybe it's this weird room. But so they look at your house very differently. Even if that person ends up buying, they're going to make you an offer. It's going to be more like, hey, let's make them a low offer, and if they accept it, we'll take it. If not, we'll just walk away. You can see, because they're being very logical. So our job is to be very smart about the pricing. Right? We don't want to underdo it or overdo it. If we want to make sure that we decide on a value that's very accurate and it's going to sell quickly. We call it the ARV, and we throw an F on the end for fast. Right? ARVF is what we're always looking at in our company. We want to make sure that, okay, is this the number it will sell quickly at? And if that's the case, then it sells quickly, and we've seen it works every single time. If we just put an ARV and we're like dreaming a little bit, then yeah, not good results. I'm sure you guys can understand that. Step 2 is the repair cost. Like, anybody ever wonder, how do you walk through a house and know how much it's going to cost to do the repairs? Yeah, me too. It's a challenge, right? So we need a very good system for knowing that. Our system that we use is a little higher level. I personally walk through the house with a line item budget, and it takes me about 10 minutes, and I can just say $3,000 for that, $2,000 for this, and eventually I'll come up with a number, right? But when you're new, you won't have all that information. There's a few people in the audience that can do that. But what we had to do, so like Rashad could walk in a house, he's done one flip, he doesn't know the numbers perfectly yet. So we created a system for him where he can literally put in what the house is, what needs to be done, what can be saved, and it comes out with a number that's actually pretty good. Because the key to this, we're not going to be perfect. Sorry, again. It's an Excel sheet that asks questions. So part of what I'm going to offer you guys at the end is I'm going to give you something really cheap that's going to show you how to come up with that number, a system for doing it. Because the key is, look, you don't need to be within 1,000 or 2 of this, but if I can get you within 5K of that number, you can make decisions. So if you say it's 55K and I look at it and say it's 53, that's not a big enough difference to stop you from moving forward. But the issue could be is if I say it's 53 and you're like it's 20, right? That's a big problem. Or it's 90, right? You're too far off. We need to be really close. So we need a system for that. I think one of the most genius things I ever did is when one of my coaches said, well, Mike, you know how to do all this, but how do you teach your guys to do it? Right? Because they don't have your experience of doing 600 or 700 houses. And he forced me, we spent months figuring this out, like what is a really simple way that you can answer a handful of questions and literally just be like, bam, there's the number. And know that you're going to be pretty close. Because there's two things that really matter in this, and this is what we're going to get to. But, in the repair costs, we need to know that. We need to know the ARV. If you get these two things right, you're going to make money every time. You realize that, right? Garbage in, Joel, right? Accountant. Garbage in, garbage out, right? It means if you put bad information in, you're going to get bad information out.
That's the Achilles heel.
Yes. Same thing with analyzing the numbers for this, right? If you put a bad ARV in, too high, too low, you put a renovation cost in, it's too high or too low, you're going to get bad information. That's going to make you think that you've done a good deal, but maybe later you find out not the case. So you got to get really good at this. Now, as a new person, we just need to get proficient enough to have confidence to make offers. Then what you want to do from there is you really want to get good at it. Like, I've spent years becoming great at this because I understand that if I'm great at this, then my business will have a lot of consistency. So yes, I'm a contractor now, but I didn't get in to be a contractor. I became a contractor so I could learn these numbers. I didn't want to get them wrong anymore. I wanted to become an expert of it. But it wasn't, like I said, the most genius thing is I wish instead of becoming a contractor and spending 5 years mastering the numbers, I wish I would have had a simple system like I share with Rashad, where I could just been like, that takes what? How long did it take you to figure out the numbers?
10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, and then how long did it take to train you on it when you were new?
Not that long.
A couple days, a week. I mean, it's really simple. It doesn't. You use it like 10 or 15 times, and you start getting really good at it. So versus I spent 3 to 5 years learning it. Yes, I'm good at it. And yes, I would recommend that once you're in the game making money, yes, you should keep evolving your skills and getting better. But what do we do so we can make offers today? Right? We have to have a good way of doing that. I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of people give you software, weird things, and say, put it in here, and it's really inaccurate. But this is what we're sharing with you today is exactly what I do in my business. It's not inaccurate. It's not a software or a tool that I'm selling online. I'm actually sharing with you my exact process that Rashad uses every day, I use every day to buy deals. So it's a little different than selling a software that looks really cool. When you sell a software, you just want it to look cool. It doesn't necessarily have, and plus it has to work for around the country. This is very specific to our area, right? It's going to tell you exactly in our area what you need to pay and what wins, because it's what we use every day. And it works in many other areas around us, but it's not going to work everywhere. So instead of being very vague with this training, I'm actually very specific, so that way you can get some great results with it, because that's what we need. Good.
So would you say it's a bad idea to just use a basic square footage if you need minimum repair, say $15 square foot, minor or next level 25, major 45?
So my experience has been that is not very accurate. And what I mean by that is maybe you can get within 10 to 20K using that. And 10 to 20K, it's better than being 30K or 40K off, but it's what I would call like you taking like one step forward instead of the whole 5 steps forward, right? We really want to get to a place where we could be within a couple, like 3,000 to 5,000 is the max. That's our area of like really knowing what we're doing. If we're getting too far off beyond that, then it's going to hinder you. You're either going to be making too high or too low of offers. So the square footage, a lot of coaches teach that because it's just an easy way to teach their students to have some idea. So they're in some ballpark, but it's a really wide ballpark. So, again, I could tell you to use it, but know that the result you would get from using it would be you're going to be pretty vague and you're not going to be exactly where you want to be. But anything's better than nothing. So if you have nothing, start with that, right? Because it's better than having absolutely nothing and just shooting out of the sky and saying, I don't know, I think it's 100, right? You've got to have some idea. And then, because there's a lot to that, by the way, because something that's needs minimum work, right? Then it's going to be the square footage of the house, but then like how old is the house? That could, what neighborhood is it in? What quality of renovation do you need to do? Is it going to be just like putting carpet in, or do you need really high-end cabinets? Right? You got to know all these factors, and that's really important to kind of add into all that. The details matter, right? The details are the difference between people that are winning at a really big level and people that are just not usually making it, unfortunately. Because there's a lot more of us who don't make it in this business than there is people who make it, right? So we want to start understanding the behaviors of the people who've made it and like start imitating them, right? If we're imitating those behaviors, we have a better chance of success.
You said early on that you had hired a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you made a difference in your ship.
Yeah.
How did you get to
Well, this was like 10 years ago, so there was like one mentor at the time. Right now, there's a lot. There's a lot to choose from. I teach people. There's Cody Sperber. There's people online. They'll teach you things. I work with people specifically locally and that people that really want to be in house flipping to optimize their business because I'm currently doing it myself. Most mentors aren't actually flipping houses. They flipped a couple and then started teaching. And if you know nothing, they can be okay mentors. But for me, I really work with people who are already flipping or really serious about flipping and want to kind of do it right. Because if you do it right, you put that energy and time in, you're going to have a really successful business. So picking a mentor, really, I mean, obviously I'm not trying to sell myself, but I'm the kind of mentor you want, and it doesn't have to be me. It could just make sure you're picking someone who's in the business doing it, right? Not someone who did it 10 years ago. You know these guys that come around to the meetups and stuff and the RIAs, like, you know, they've not done a deal for 10 or 15 years, most of them. They're just great at selling products. And their products show that, you know, it's like Carlton Sheets. I don't know if Carlton Sheets is actually in the business. He's just really good at selling products. He got me to buy. So, but I don't know if he's actually ever done a deal or not. I couldn't really tell you. I think he's done a deal. I haven't seen much on that fact. So I would just pick someone who is active and willing to teach you and has good systems, clarity of thought, and then finding someone you like and you kind of vibe with, that you know you like their personality. Most students that work with me, they like that I'm straightforward, that I kind of very just truthful. Here's how it is. They like that I have systems, that I can show you things. Right? It's not like, hey, just do it this way, figure it out. I'm like, hey, it's A to Z. Here's how you do it. I think we need a system for PowerPoints. Gonna get a program together for that. Like how to keep hook it up with a wire. Holy crap. So we done stepped over. So step number 2 is the repair cost, right? We have to choose the optimal layout when we're doing that, because when we know the optimal layout, then we can start adding up what the repair costs are. This is a big piece that people miss. They go in, they say, hey, it'll be $40K to renovate it, but they haven't really thought, like, what am I going to make it into? What will I take it from to what it's going to be? That makes a big difference in the cost. If you're just going to go in and keep it the same, right, and that's what the comps are showing you, that you should keep it the same, then that's going to be a lot cheaper than if you have to go in and take it from a 3-2 to a 4-3, add a bath, add a bedroom. You've got to redesign the whole house because it's really weirdly laid out and you want to make it more optimal. Well, that's going to cost a lot more money, and we want to know that. So first we have to decide, like, what does it need to be for it to sell quickly? Well, once we know what it needs to be, then we can put together a proper repair budget, and we can start adding up all those repairs. But we have to first know where we're going. And a lot of people, we don't take time to do that. But if you do, you'll get more accurate. And that takes time to learn. So the last piece of it is the analyzation of it once we have those 2 numbers. So when we analyze the numbers, we use a pro deal calculator. That's something that we invented in our office. It's a tool that, not a very jazzy name, right? It's just a name that we call it because it's what we use in our business. We don't normally sell it. It's actually a tool that we give to our students that we work with because, like, for us, just giving you a deal calculator, well, what will you do with it, right? You got to know how to use it. You got to know how to get those numbers into it that work. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that now. So the tool is the key to making the perfect offer. I mean, when you put this in, it's going to tell you exactly what works at what price point. I'm actually going to demo it and show it to you, too. It's really simple stuff. It's pretty awesome. And when you use all that information, it shows, like, what we're always shooting for is what we call our OON. We hear of Mayo, right? We've heard of Mayo. We've heard of ARV. What we have is the OON. It's the optimal offer number. Right? For us, we're always focusing, like, what is our most optimal offer number that is perfect for us, going to give us a better chance of getting accepted more often, and then also make sure we make money. Because, see, there's 2 things that matter, right? We want to get our deal accepted. We've got to actually make a deal, but then we have to make money on it, too. So really important stuff. Let's see if we can get this to come out. That's what it looks like. Let me go and demo it for you. Who has a deal that they're looking at and know the numbers on it? Good. What are the numbers? All right, you're out. How about, I know Rashad has something if no one else has anything. Rashad, give me the numbers on a deal you're working on. Something like a rehab.
We got a deal with Pasadena.
Okay.
275, actually 265 ARB.
265 ARB. Let's pull this up. Oops, let's try to pull it up. So here's the calculator. It sits on our desktop. This is what Rashad uses every day. I use every day. 265 ARV. How much work?
Like 275.
275. We're good. Just go with whatever you know. I know you have it. He keeps notes, but you don't have them with him. 50K in work. Oh, don't tell the purchase price. We're going to show him how we figure it out, okay? Don't give them that piece of information yet. So this is really simple. You can see we have a lot of stuff on here. I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see as much as possible. But when you come into this, we see the first thing we have is our ARV. And 275 is what Rashad said, he thinks, or hopes. He'll confirm that. And then we put in this next thing, the estimated repair cost, right? These are only 2 numbers that matter, right? 50K for that. Now, just don't worry about what that number come in. We need to figure out the purchase price. Let me show you how me and Rashad go down and figure that out, by the way. See this underwriting criteria? We look at the ARV right here, and it says if the house is worth $250,000 to $450,000, we offer 70 to 72%. Right? That's the optimal offer range for us to make. Remember that sweet spot we were talking about? So let's just choose 70% that we're going to offer. We go right here to this Mayo. Well, it happens to be at 70%, so maybe let's put it at 72. Now we'll know what our maximum offer is because that was the high end of the range. So we just hit enter, and there's the offer. See right under it? $36,000 is what we're going to make, and here's the offer right here. It goes right in for you. $148K is what we can pay for that. How much is it listed for? $190. So we're a little off. We can't pay $190, obviously, but we know that. So Rashad, now, what's the value of that? Knowing that we're about $50K off on the offer price, does that feel like a hot deal? Yeah, it's
Actually,
like,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
175.
Well, that's better though. Yeah. 175 is not too far off, but
175 REO.
yeah. Well, you know that you got a little work to do to get it from 175 to 148. Maybe it's 150, but we now know where we need to offer. Do you see how simple that is? That's how simple I had to make it. Before I used to do all this on a napkin, and sometimes it would work out, sometimes it didn't, but now it's just really simple. We literally just put in. Who else has the latte? You got something? Sabrina, let's talk about yours. 310. $45? Okay. $45K in work, and you said it was 310, so I think it's going to be similar. So same thing, we got 70 to 72%. This time, let's go on the low end offer, right? It's going to be the smallest amount we offer. We'll put 70 in, we hit enter, and here's a really cool thing. You could pay 172 for it. Don't tell me you paid like 300 for it. You're still working on it? Yeah. What are you thinking as far as the number? Okay. Well, let's take a look. Here's some really good information you're also provided. Oh, God, here we go back again. Okay, here's some really, I'm going to just show one more thing. I'll answer your question in a second. So we put 310 in, 45, 172. This is the stuff that's going on in the background, though. Do you see all this stuff that looks really complicated? Well, that's a lot of the numbers that you're getting to see. So here's the numbers that actually matter right here. We know that it's at 70% of LTV, or the optimal offer number. We also know that for every dollar that Sabrina puts into this renovation, she's going to make 106% return on that. We always want to make at least 50 cents for every dollar we put in. So if it's a 100K renovation, we want to make 50K. Right? If it's a 50K renovation, we want to make 25. Now, there's a minimum. You don't want to go under 25 usually. We also see down here, it says estimated net profit. These are my 4 magic numbers. If all 4 of these line up, I can make an offer. So this one here says that I should make at least 30K. Well, guess what? I'm making 47K. So I know now if they come back to you and say, you know what, we want 72%, and that would make the deal happen. Well, guess what? We look up there, 178 we could go to. So we can go a little bit higher, and we still make 41K. For me personally, I just look and say, do the numbers still work? 72% still works. Then we're getting more than 50 cents here, and we're getting 15% return, which is our minimum here, and we're still making 41K. That deal still works for me. We might even be able to go to 73. One more second. You'll be my first person, okay? And then, so it still works. That's the key to the way we're thinking. What if they say 185 though? We're like, I need 185 for the house, deal, no deal, right? Then you can make a decision. You'll know that you're breaking some of your rules, but you can make a decision. This is called an underwriting criteria. This underwriting criteria is what I've developed over doing a ton of deals. I spent a year developing, like, okay, what is the reason that I win and what is the reason that I lose? And that's why we use this. It tells us exactly where we need to be. You got a specific question?
Do you always go up to a 30% profit, or do you ever change that number?
Yeah, so great question. Now look at the underwriting criteria. Do you see, let's do one that's 150. We'll give you the example of that rental we just had. Maybe we want to flip it. So that house was 155,000, or let's go 150 because we want to be a little bit competitive. ARVF, remember? We only needed about 10K in work to get it to that because it had been renovated just 4 years ago. Full renovation, contractor, really nice. We bought it for 62.5. Well, it says we could have paid way more, but if we put 62.5 in, man, that's 72% that that's actually like 55K. But let's put in 65%. You can see in a neighborhood like that, we want to go down here. Look, this takes, like, if we were doing 150 to 175, it's 65 to 66% we want to offer. Because see, if we offered 72% in that neighborhood at that price point, our profit would be like 12K. It wouldn't be enough. So this is the secret. When you hear, has anybody ever heard of the 70% rule? It's pretty common. They say you should just offer 70% on everything. Well, here's the problem with 70%. It works in some neighborhoods, but other neighborhoods, we can be at 72, 73%. Sabrina at 72% was still making 40K. Like, would you want to do 70 and lose that deal? I'd totally be okay doing 72 or 73 because I love rehabbing a house and making 35 to 40K. So I'm okay with that. But if we get into a neighborhood, this is Edmondson Village, it's a good neighborhood, we love it. But if it's only 150K ARV, we need to pay about 65 to 66%. So the underwriting criteria, what it does for you, it shows you on each price point where you need to be in order to get that optimal offer number out. You can see it goes all the way up to 74% at a higher price point. And I've seen people go 70. If you're doing a house that's 600K and you pay 76%, you still make like 60, 70K on that deal, by the way. Like Crofton sometimes, right? You get a really high price point, like you could easily make a lot of money. So the key is it's anywhere from like 65 to like 75%. The key is knowing like where do you land? Right? And that's what this does for you. It shows you exactly where to land, where you should be, what you need to pay in order to get the deal done. So that's any other questions about this? Because this is basically how we make our decision every single time. Go ahead, John. And I'll come to you next.
Well, I saw that you were doing a deal for them, which is in PG County and one over here in Baltimore and stuff. So does that have, for flips, does that have to calculate like your transfer taxes, all of that? I mean, they vary, right?
It does. They vary in a small way. So keep in mind that you can adjust. So if you want, you can come in and say, oh, you know, Baltimore. What I've done is take this one, make a few changes for Baltimore versus PG if you really want to get very specific. I don't think you need to be, just so you know. I mean, like you're talking like the difference might say, hey, I'm going to make 41K instead of 40,200. Like it's just not a big enough difference to kill your deal.
And on your, I guess whatever it is, so your criteria, you've got your card money costs already set in.
Yep. I have 12 and 2 set in, by the way, but you guys are welcome to change that compared to what your cost is. If it's less, put in less. If it's more, put in more. So the key is I just give you a foundation for it so you guys know where to start. This is a good middle ground. You should be getting money close to that. You should, you know, your transfer cost should be in that ballpark. But if you really want to get like gangster with it, you want to just take it and really hone it out. Like you're like, hey, I don't want to be within 1,000. I want to be within 100. Well, you'll probably need to adjust all those things depending on each county. But for me, I'm okay being within 1,000 because I don't want to get overly detailed. When I get overly detailed, I miss opportunity. But I don't want to be under detailed and be 10 or 20K off. This will never allow you to be that. I test it against every deal I do. So I always, when we do a deal, we print out a copy of this. It says we're going to make 41K. What do you think we do at the end? When we've done the deal, we look and say, how much did we make? Right? Was that ARV right? Was our renovation cost right? And did this thing calculate right? If the ARV is exactly what we thought and the renovation cost is exactly what we thought, the number's always within somewhere between $100 to $1,000. It's that accurate. Because we don't have to be more accurate than that, right? $1,000 one way or the other is not going to cause us to say yes or no to a deal. So you can get better with it if you'd like, John, but usually I recommend starting, and then if you want, you can adjust as necessary. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, sorry, you were next. Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, PG County. Yes, I use this for PG because I'm doing a decent amount of deals there. You have a question?
Yeah, for your rehab costs, do you necessarily, like you just, I know you try to shop for the better rehab costs, but like do you like look for sales or do you coupon or you just go with whatever's out there?
I've watched enough of extreme couponing. I wish we could apply that to flipping somehow and go like, yeah, we get like 6 vanities for the price of one with this coupon. But so here's the real answer to that. When I'm doing like as many as I'm doing now, I don't shop as much because I need simplicity, right? I need to know that it's all going to come from the same place. If you're doing 1 to 2 or 3 flips at a time, I recommend power shopping and finding the best deals. You have time to do so, and it can really help you have a competitive advantage and give you a little bit of room for any mistake you might make being new. So I personally, when I was doing a couple at a time, I would go around and look for the best deal between Home Depot, Lowe's, some supply houses. Now I've gotten very specific because if I make changes, it's hard for my people to know how to do all these things while I'm traveling, right? It requires me to be too big of a piece of it. But personally, I just want them to know, go and do these things. And if I miss out on a small sale, it's not going to end my day. I also get really good deals now, so I'm okay maybe paying an extra 1,000 or 2 and missing some of those sales because I'm getting the numbers in really good. Okay, you had a question, and I'll come to you next. Yeah, so here's the thing about that. Whenever you look at something from a wholesaler, it's almost always wrong. So just so you know, I mean, like, remember, like, I'm probably the only wholesaler that puts good numbers out because I know the numbers, but most wholesalers are new. We wholesale when we were new to the game. So they probably haven't done 700 flips or even 50 flips. They've probably done none. So they're giving you their best guess. And obviously they're trying to sell their deal. They're going to be more optimistic, right? And so we have a joke in the office. If they say it's 30K in work, just double it. And it ends up being a very scary way. It ends up being accurate. Like most of the time, they're like 30. I just make it 60. And my 60 is usually closer than the 30 is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how do you get a spreadsheet, or is there a spreadsheet calculator to walk in, or not that, sometimes walk in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's another grade of education that's not in someone's grade.
Yeah.
So to get around, what do you do about that spreadsheet?
I walk the house and I line item everything out. So what's really big for me is instead of asking a contractor what it would cost, I actually create standardized pricing, and then I tell the contractor what I'll pay. And I'm very in tune with that. I wish there was I can give you simple stuff to do offers, but when it comes to really getting tight with those numbers, usually people work with me for 3 to 6 months to get that honed in, because it takes time to really get used to what the numbers are. The value of that, though, is when you understand what the numbers are, you start getting your houses done cheaper than you did before. Like almost everyone is paying people more than they think, because imagine this is how most people's opinion on what something should cost comes from. They'll get 10 estimates, and let's say waterproofing is a great example. My first time I did waterproofing, I got 10 estimates. The lowest one was $14,000, the highest was $27,000. So if someone came in and said, I'll do it for 10, I would have thought that was a good deal, right? I paid $3,500 for it right now because I found a way to do that. Now, for a long time, I paid $5K. And $5K is fair also to waterproof a whole basement. But it's not the 10, it's not the 12 or the 26. But if you keep hearing those numbers, would you believe that 10 or 8K is a good deal? And in reality, we got 40 to 50 items on every house we do. So if we're paying a couple of thousand more on each item, it'll take your budget from 50 to 80, just like that. And then really, you're not making money because you're paying too much for the work. So it does take time to get really good at it. But I have a couple tools that if anybody wants to have this today, I'll offer it to you for a really cheap price. And I'll do some training on exactly how the acquisitions team gets a really good ballpark. Right? There's a shorter training that can get you in the realm so you can make offers. But long term, it just takes practice and a lot of, someone mentoring you and walking you through, or you doing a lot of houses and figuring it out. I figured it out the hard way through doing a lot of houses, and it took me about a year and about 10 houses before I got pretty good with the numbers. So not really the quick way. You have a question? I think you had one, sorry. Sure. Yeah, you can use a DC. You're going to be on the higher end of the price point. So what I'd recommend, when you see that it goes right here in the underwriting criteria, it goes from $450 to $550. So the reason I don't go over $550 is because I don't think you should be flipping a lot of houses over $550,000. It gets really risky. So when you're in DC, I love DC, but I would say focus on the parts of DC that aren't $1 million. Right? They're going to get hit pretty hard also, but there's parts of DCs that are 250 to 500 or 600K. They tend to be where if I'm doing DC, I tend to be in that price point. Just safer. Alan?
Just one thing about that section, when I run into it, is basically my kitchen is my biggest number in that number.
Mm-hmm.
So once I understand my kitchen better, and I walk a house and I see the vision of the kitchen, I can go back, say before the offer, and calculate that number. If I see an island to fit in, I know it's 2 cabinets and some extra granite. I know I can open up the, you have your numbers in mind. My kitchens can run 7,000 to 9,000 without appliances. An individual probably can't do that same kitchen like a couple that bought the house in Crofton for less than 20.
Yeah.
Because if they go to the same place, all the rest of it, they're just not going to get the benefit. And I've only done 12, but basically I have a relationship that gives me something different than to buy the person walking in the first time and buying the kitchen for 20, and we do have an agreement where I'm not getting out of the deepest discount. Yours is better, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I do have a relationship. I'm getting a little better pricing. I'm getting a response time. The bottom line is look at your kitchen and make that kitchen that optimal number. When I added the island to that kitchen in Pasadena, basically it fit, and it fit all the demographics. I draw my own kitchens. I lay them out before I go to the designer. And I basically go into them and they tweak them. We started putting glass doors in. The one in Crofton, we had a whole wall of glass doors with colorful staging, 32 bottle wine cooler in the middle with a top. That's why that house went for $290. Because basically we could push that kitchen and that person could look at it and say, I can't build that even that section probably for less than. We just put a wet bar and a wine cooler in another house that cost us $3,200. but basically it allows us again to push the price without the market was there for. Not that wine coolers are a big thing, but some people really get drawn to them.
Yeah.
Barn doors, wine coolers, and kitchens, it excites people, and that's where some
Yeah,
people
good point.
Kitchen, try to get
Yeah.
as familiar as you can with what you're going to do with the kitchen, what your numbers will look like in your kitchen. Not
I
saying
agree.
my numbers are your numbers, but it can be done between 7 and 9 for the average kitchen. And a kitchen's usually a 10 by 10. After you look at enough kitchens, you start realizing almost every kitchen has the same cabinets.
I agree.
You have the one that's over the refrigerator, they got the sink front, you got your point. After a while, kitchens start to look pretty standard, and then you just expand on that and make it the extras you can justify on your budget, and also make it one that's going to make your house pop. And that's
Yep.
really where your numbers are.
Yeah, so he's making a really good point. You make a really good point. The kitchen's where a lot of value comes in. And if you can do a $30,000 kitchen for 8, you've brought a lot of value to the house. So next, okay. I wish I did. I wish that I had a list of them, but the reality is, and nobody loves this answer, is that there really isn't a lot of great contractors that you can just hire, and they're going to know exactly how to do your house and do it for a cheap enough price. It requires you becoming the leader and you becoming good enough to understand the different costs so that you can inspire people to work for that cost. And that's the reality of this. It would be super easy if I could just be, here's my, matter of fact, if I had a list like that, it'd be very valuable. For myself, probably even more, but we have to create them. So for me, I have contractors I've worked with a long time, and our energy and time we spent together, they went from being not that great to good. When I refer them to friends and family, they're like, why did you give me this guy? He's like awful, because they don't know how to work with them. Right? I've learned, we found a balance of us working together that they become their best version of their self. And that's what a good leader does. They take people that are good and make them great. And that's what I have to do with contractors most of the time. Because any contractor that's already there, who's already really great, well, they're usually charging more than we can pay. So we have to find the balance of a contractor. It's doing this, right? The contractor, it's on the upswing. And then we catch them down at the bottom, but they're heading up. And then we head up with them, right? And then we find a good, nice routine of working together. Most of my guys have been with me like 5+ years. They don't go away because I keep them very happy and I make sure, but they are doing the work at very affordable prices because I've shown them how to make a really good living working at that price. Right? I have to teach them and help them with that a little bit. And when I say that, don't think you have to be a master contractor. You just have to work, say, hey, look, this is what the goal is we want to accomplish for you, that you make profit and I get my houses done cheap. Every day you work on that until that happens. Right? And that's how you build a great relationship with a contractor. Contractors aren't found, they're developed. And that's the real secret to hiring. I have a whole training on that because it's such a big subject. It's, I'm part of a group with a bunch of people who do over $1 million a year in net income flipping. And I'm the only guy in the group who really has mastered this. And so I become the go-to guy when they ask me because, Mike, you're the guy we know. We're all struggling finding good guys. And when I start to teach them this, they're like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, we're just looking for people to hire and saying, we pay $30K. And they're like, I need to make 40. We're not showing them how they could do it for 30, right? We're not teaching them and helping and supporting them and then, really investing because the reason people don't like to do that, it takes a lot of time, right? It takes a little bit of energy to work with someone and get them to, but think about what one contractor means to you. If you get one contractor that has 3 or 4 people working for them, they can do 7 houses a year. They're making $35K a house, 7 times 35 is a lot of money, right? It's a living. One contractor can be the difference in you making it as a house flipper and making a really good income or not. So would it be okay to invest 3 to 6 months really, building that relationship with them? The answer is yes. And if you think the answer is no, then it's going to be a struggle to find really good people. That's been my experience at least. So that's the best I can give. Who else had a question? Thank you. So can everybody see how having a tool like this is really valuable? I mean, you can understand how this really makes the difference in your business. I have a lot of tools in my business, and that's what it requires to be good. But there's only one tool I use every single day, 10 times a day. It's this one. This is my tool. This is not something I'm selling or, I'm trying to sell on the internet to become rich at a very little bit of money. I use it to make money. It's my tool I use every day in my business. I'm just sharing with you my exact stuff. So, would anybody like a copy of it? Awesome. John I only had one. John raised his hand first, so he's going to get it. I'm just messing. Yay, John. Action, right? You got to take action. I'm messing around. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to get it. So as part of a limited time marketing test, I want to give this to you for a really cheap price. I know everybody thinks try to sell it for $1,000 or $2,000. I'm really going to give you guys an opportunity to buy it super cheap, and I'm also going to provide you with the training on how to use it. I'm literally doing this as part of a marketing test, so I normally sell this product for $297, and I get it all day long. I've sold it, and it's also really part of, like, I have some students in the audience, it's part of like a $6,000 training, like a more expensive training, so not everyone gets to have access to this, but more importantly, knowing how to use it, because the reason I don't just sell the tool without the training is if I give you the tool, what are you going to do with it? Right? You could maybe use it and figure it out. There's some, especially who's the finance person. You'll figure it out because you're a finance person. You would figure it out, but not everyone. $47. Is that a fair price? Now, here's what I'm going to give you with it. I'm going to give you 2-hour training with it that we're going to do Monday at 7. And the training is going to be online. So for you don't have to drive in traffic. And for anyone who can't make it, I'm going to record it. So you'll have a recording for it. And when I say 2 hours, most of our trainings end up being longer, so bear with me. But I'll make sure that we stay on the training until you've gotten every question answered, and you make sure you're proficient and you can use it. It's really that simple. Excuse me? PM. Yes, PM. Yes, AM, no. We'll do PM because I know a lot of people will be getting off work, so we'll do it in the evening. We'll do it on Zoom if you guys are familiar. You just download it. It's really simple. I'll give you all the links and information for it. If anyone wants it, go back to Delonte. He's got some order forms. It is only going to show it today, so you won't see it online being sold for this price. I normally sell that for $297. The training, by the way, I consistently sell that I sell it for $397. So that's so you're getting about $600, and here's what we'll go over in the training: how to place an accurate value on the property. So I told you what you needed to do, but I want to show you how to do it in real life. Give you some real examples of me walking through properties, what I look at, how I think about things. Second, how to quickly do those repair costs. A few people are like, how do I do the repair costs? I'm going to show you how my acquisitions guys who've done a bunch of renovations are able to say, hey, this is freaking $50K and be right. Right? Because that's what they need. You need a simple way to be right now. Eventually you'll have all the skills you need, but right now you need something to get you going. So I'll teach you how to do that. I'll also teach you all the numbers in that, right? I showed you a lot of cool numbers, but I obviously didn't have, because I didn't want to be here for 5 hours. I didn't want to go through too many, but I'll make and show you how the numbers work, how you can adjust them. Like John may want to adjust it for another county or another city, different tax. You can do that and then save a different copy. So this is also a lifetime price, by the way. You own it forever. I'm not going to do like $47 a month. A lot of people will charge you a lot more money for this. I'm doing it because of the marketing test. I want to get people in. I want you to see how you like it. And then some of you are going to love it, and you might want to work with me as, students. And if you do, I'm here, right? And that's kind of why I want you to see my best tool, and I want you to use it in your business. And I'm hoping that you'll love it like everyone I've ever given it to does. We love it personally. So total price $694. Guess what? It's building suspense. A lot of suspense. Maybe that's good. Still just $47. It's coming. Oh, there it is. Holy crap, I feel like that was like very suspenseful. I can't take it. So only today though. So I'm not selling anything big. I told you I'd give you a really good deal on it. And again, it's like $700 and stuff I'm getting you for $47. Has anyone not got 47? Like, be honest, seriously. Is anyone here, you sure you don't have 47? I'll tell you what. If you really don't have 47, you can have it for free. Go back and sign up. It's yours, okay? You're welcome, Virginia. You can have it. You not have 47? Or are you trying to get 312? Okay, yeah. Thank you. Seriously. Just go back and let my mom know, and we'll sign you up, okay? Yeah. Good. You, and then I'll come to you.
Okay. I like the system, but one of the things I really struggled with buying my home first house was just finding a deal. So if you could just quickly touch on the different methods. I did wholesale, but I found the numbers just didn't match what I thought they should be. There was almost nothing on the MLS and I was so we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick rundown of it. So we most think we can't find deals, right? We think the MLS doesn't have deals. Wholesalers aren't finding deals. I can tell you, like, Sabrina, you got a deal on the MLS and a wholesale, right? Show you exactly how to do it. It might sound like I'm coming back to this $47 thing, but this doesn't change my life very much. I really just want you to get involved. And I know when I give it for free, people didn't use it. But when they pay at least just a small amount of money, you'll use it, you'll respect it, you'll learn it. I want you to learn this stuff more importantly. But what we'll get to is that most of the time there are deals on the MLS. You're just looking at the numbers and not seeing them correctly, so you're missing opportunity. Because when a deal comes on the MLS, if you can't quickly make a decision, it's gone. Right? You can't wait 3 to 5 days. It tends to have like a 1 to 2 day window. You got to get in there. Same thing with wholesalers, by the way. If a wholesaler puts a deal at a good number, which they do every once in a while, well, you need to be able to quick about it. This last Saturday, I actually walked Tanya, one of our students, through, and I showed her. We spent an hour and a half looking on the MLS. We found a deal. It was listed for $125. We thought we could pay more than $125. We got there, and it was in pretty bad shape, much worse than the pictures. But we were still at $125. So what I did is I bugged the agent until 7 o'clock at night. I finally got her to answer her phone and convinced her to write the offer for me, and she did. And we got the offer accepted on Monday morning first thing. See, everyone else was waiting until Monday for, we don't want to bother over the weekend. But the real key was I knew exactly what I could offer on it. I knew the number, where I think a lot of other people would have seen the condition and they would say, hey, maybe on Monday I'll get my contractor through. Maybe on Monday, maybe I can get my agent to look at the comps. And next thing you know, it's Tuesday or Wednesday and you've lost the deal. So, yeah. Yeah. So a lot of when any student works with me, the first thing I teach them, if they're in the mastermind or in the bigger training, the first thing I teach them is how to find deals the freeway. Right? We got to be able to master the free stuff before we spend money. Because if you don't know the freeway, then you're probably not going to be very good at the paid way either. Okay?
For you to have to get access to the MLS, you have to be either have a realtor or
well, or know someone. That's the key. You got to know someone, right? So, yeah. Well, I'll get them hooked up with my mom, who's a realtor, and she'll give them like automated listings that she sends to them every day so they can look. And if they need to get in and see it, she'll help them with that. And if they want to make an offer, she'll help too. And then also, any other agent that's a student or any agent you meet here, you can hook up with. There's no we don't care who you go with, obviously. Just make sure you're with an agent that's willing to do what's necessary. So, any questions about the software itself? Yeah, good. Yeah, no, it's exactly this for wholesales. It's the exact same thing because if the deal, who are you going to sell your wholesales to? To like a renovator? You're going to sell to a house flipper or maybe a landlord, right? So you want to know the math. If you know the math for like if a renovator can make money on it, then you still say like 41K, her deal we put in. Well, maybe you buy it and sell to a renovator, wants to make 35K and you make a $6,000 assignment fee. And that's how we do it. You got to know the numbers though, because they're going to look at the numbers. And then here's the best part. Sometimes they don't know the numbers and you can actually show this to them and say, look, here's the numbers. And maybe you can inspire them to pay a little more money for the property because they didn't know. And I'll go to you next, Maria.
I'll just tell you, I'm a hard money lender, and
okay.
if someone came to me with this spreadsheet and had it all broken down, like
yeah.
things about getting better rates and different stuff, like you would pitch a deal, it makes educated know this is my after repair, this is what the repairs are, like, all these numbers in a spreadsheet like that. So,
yeah, that's big stuff.
I work with Michael, but like, you know, this is a great tool. So I'm going to purchase it myself. Just to,
yeah. No, thank you. And listen, he's absolutely right. I mean, the numbers, like I only told you like one or two ways, but here's another thing we do. When we're sitting down with a motivated seller who's responded to maybe to one of our mailers, we show them the numbers. How we close the deal is we'll sit there and show them, like, here's the numbers, here's what I'm going to make. And now that they see it on a spreadsheet that looks pretty professional and they understand it, okay, this person's not just pulling this number out of the back of their pocket. Because what is the reason they don't usually take your number that's different than what their expectation is because they want to make sure they don't feel like they've been taken advantage of or they just didn't get the best number. When you show them the conclusive math, you close more deals. Because now they know you've done a little research. You're not just pulling this out of thin air, right? They know that you've done the comps. So I generally, when I'm presenting, I'll show them the comparable, show them my renovation budget, and then I show them this analyzer. And I'm like, here's the numbers and here's what I'm going to make. I'm very transparent. Right? The best salespeople are very transparent these days. No more used car salesmen. Works, but it doesn't work as well as being just honest. Yes, again.
With that, as far as like financing, we talk about finding investors.
Mm-hmm.
So out there finding investors, is it cash only mostly, or are you actually like
So we might find an investor can put all the money up, and that's great. Or we find an investor can put up $50K, and that could be the money we use to go to a hard money lender, and because they're going to want you to put money down, and they're going to want you to do some of the work before you get paid. So you're going to need some cash to get going. So we have two different types of people. One, they put all the money up, that's the best. But a lot easier to find someone with $50K than it is to find someone with $200K. So in general, we might find someone has $50K, that investor we could partner with and go to a hard money lender, get a loan, and use their money for all the money to bridge everything. So investors are going to want to see that. A hard money lender is a private person who does loans specifically for real estate usually. So they fund us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the reason you don't hear a lot about people going to regular banks is because they're not really friendly to investors. Their focus is selling to homeowners. And that's where they do most of their loans. There's some banks, if you have experience, that you can work with. But even today, I have a lot of experience. A lot of banks want to work with me. But I still use hard money lenders every day because when I get a relationship with a hard money lender and I call them and we see the numbers, I've had a hard money guy like a month ago who I called on a Thursday at 4 o'clock and he had the deal closed Friday at 5. And I wouldn't have gotten that deal. The bank would have taken 30 to 45 days minimum. So it's a little slow. Well, right there. There's one. No. Well, online, you might go online. I mean, certainly if you're part of this and, once you get in and you guys have 47, you'll have my email and you text, hey, can you give me a couple of hard money lenders? There's a few local ones I recommend that I personally work with and I've done a lot of business with. And that's it. So, I mean, there's plenty of hard money lenders. They're very easy to find online. You should type in hard money lender Baltimore and you'll get more than you can handle. Then you have to start digging through them. The bigger question is how do you get through them? And you just have to have a conversation with him. But he would be a great start. He's a hard money lender. He's here. So start with someone like that. As long as he charges under 15 and 5. He does. He's in. All right. He's not too expensive then. Sorry. There, and then I'll go to Rashad next. Mm-hmm. Of building your own comps. Explain more. Yeah. Not me personally, because look, I try to keep things simple, and that's not by any means simple, right? There's a lot of risk in that. I know people who are really big and worth like $20 million. Well, that's to them. They could take $1 million investment. It wouldn't be the end of them. For me, it would be like all my money, and if it didn't work out, it would be just could be a bad experience for me. So I really believe in keeping it super simple, right? It's the KISS method. Keep it super simple, right? I'm going to call it keep it super simple. I don't like the stupid part. I used to use that for myself, but yes, keep it super simple. More positive. We're going to raise it up. But it's keep it super simple, and that means buying houses, first-time home buyers, 150 to 300K in Baltimore. Get the PG, you might be able to raise it up to like 400K. And those houses are going to sell easy. They're going to do well. Life's going to be really easy when you work with those kind of people. When you go to building blocks and doing $1 million homes, it's definitely more speculation. And the people who do well with that just have a really high level of knowledge about why that works and how to make it work. You'll see way more people fail at those kind of things than they will win because they grossly underestimate the amount of information necessary to be able to take that kind of risk. Now, what we're teaching here is you do the simple stuff and, you get a mentor, you get someone to help you, and you're going to have better results. And start with just something this simple, right? It's $47. What's the loss? Oh, hey, I don't know if I told you this. Guess what? Oh, this is the best part. I left this out. Hey, if you guys hate it, just ask for your money back and I'll give it to you. If anyone hates it. I don't expect that anyone will, but if you do, just email me and say, Mike, it sucks, I don't like it, and I'll say, hey, here's your $47 back. And you get to keep it, if that's the case. And I don't trust that nobody's like, trying to just get it for free. If you do, great. Good for you. Hey, Sabrina, you're next, and I think I keep missing your shot. Sorry, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So as a wholesaler, Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys realize why most wholesalers don't get the cheap prices that most of us do and they want too much? It's because they didn't know the numbers and they just asked, they made an offer and then someone accepted it. If they would have known the numbers and made a lower offer, there's still a pretty good chance that would have got accepted also. But now they have the opportunity to make money. So when you tell someone you'll pay 100 when you should have paid 80, often they would have taken the 80 if you just would have asked them. Right? If you just would have asked, they would have taken it. But you said 100, so of course they're going to take 100. But the problem you have then, because you don't know the numbers, is now you figure out later that you paid too much. And that's a really hard conversation to have when you buy someone's property and you don't have the ability to sell it and make some money. You got to go back and tell them you messed up. We like not to do that as much as possible because that's about the worst conversation I hate not keeping my promise. And that's probably what got me really good at the numbers, right? I wanted to make sure I was actually good at this. Rashad, you had something you wanted to share?
This is my hard money guy. Looking at that, it looks real nice. depends on their experience. So I'll get some people that are really experienced in the numbers. They know like
Yeah.
down to maybe $1,000 to
Mhm.
But I get a lot of people who are new at it, and so to have a tool like that that's going to give a pretty accurate picture, and like what you're talking about with wholesalers, like
Yeah.
double it.
Mhm.
Almost every person I talk to has a deal from a wholesaler, and I use the wholesale, so I know the how to pitch the deal and stuff, but it's always like $20,000 or $30,000 renovation, and I'll pull up the picture on Google Maps, and I'm like, I can see $20,000 worth of renovation just
On the outside, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So just to have something that's kind of tighten up your numbers, even if they're not perfect, like
Yeah.
we can use our experience and comps and stuff to verify and to have like, a starting point or a template that you can work on.
Yeah, he makes a really good point. When it comes down to this, I realize personally when I don't take action in my life, and this is the reason that we don't find our personal greatness, is because we don't take action on the things that really matter. And when I don't, it's always based in the fact that I don't have an understanding of it, so I have fear. And when I don't understand something, it creates fear, and that fear creates a lack of action. So I'm teaching you something that's really high level. It just sounds like I'm saying some words, but like for me personally, the reason I've been able to grow to where I'm at is because I've had a lot of fear. I had a lot of fear that stopped me from doing this in the first place. I had fear from going from doing 3 houses a year to doing 15. Going from 15 to 150. Like there's a lot of fear every step of the way. And when I gained clarity on each of the things necessary to do, then the fear went away, right? And I just started doing it. That's what this is meant to do, right? This is not a $47 tool. This is a life-changing tool. This is something that if you're going to be in real estate, you can't lose from this, right? That what I'm going to drop with you guys on this couple-hour training is really high-level stuff. I'm going to drop with you like exactly what I'm teaching my guys. So low battery, bam. We now know. See that? That was perfect timing too. Like every presentation has to be the lifespan of my MacBook. Good. Well, it's hard to say any one person is right or wrong. Either way, I mean, I don't pay attention to what they send out. I literally, I have to go figure it out for myself. Because listen, you can't trust someone else who's selling you something to give you accurate information. So when I'm selling stuff, people really they're pretty confident that it's right because I won't just say it's 100K and work and it's 200K A or B. I'll show them, I'll send 4 comps with it and say, look, these are the comps I'm using. Go and ride those comps and tell me if I'm right. If I'm wrong, let's re-talk about it and let me see where I made a mistake. And then when I send them the budget, I literally will send the budget, say here's the work line item out for you. Tell me what you disagree with. And that's why I'm able to wholesale very easily with a phone call because I'm sending deals that make sense. Most wholesalers don't have that information to give, right? They don't know how to do that, so they don't share it. That's why it's important you learn that stuff because your wholesaling business skyrockets when you build the credibility of the guy who actually is a good wholesaler and getting good numbers. Like people love when a wholesaler sends stuff with good numbers on it because it's so rare, right? Most of the stuff we see, the numbers are all over the place and they're not very accurate. But you can do wholesaling either way. It's just a step better if you actually know the numbers. Make your life easier because you can get better results as a wholesaler. Okay. It really depends, but I can tell you that, I've seen people that aren't very good at it who usually make $5,000 to $10,000. I'm averaging about $13K on mine, and I know some really good wholesalers averaging even more. This market's very hot right now. People really want to renovate. They want to invest. So if you're really good at it, you can get, if you go and negotiate a good deal. The key to when it works and it doesn't work is when you go in and make that offer. If you're making the 100K offer because you think that's right and then you find out it's 80, then you're going to make 0, right? If you make an 80K offer because you thought it was 80 but then come to find out it was 70, maybe you can find a sucker that'll buy it for a little more. Maybe you make 1,000 or 2. But imagine if you knew you had to pick it up for 70 and then all of a sudden, because you've priced it well, you create that buyer's frenzy and you find the one buyer who's willing to pay 85, 90 for it. That's how you make all your money. It's the same thing. You got to put your wholesale deals out at good numbers. When you put them out at a good number, then people go crazy. I know Sabrina, I offered her one for a 5K assignment fee. I found someone to buy it for 14K. It's just timing wasn't right for her, but then the person who bought it paid 14K for it. And it's just you find because she was one of many people who wanted it, and that became this buyer's frenzy, and one person emerged as the winner. And that's how we get the most money for it. So the difference is if I was newer and I only knew Sabrina, I could have maybe sold her for $5K. But being able to create that environment because I priced it really well is how I got $14K out of it. So you can see it's a variable. But just get good at pounding it at the right number, and then it'll be easy for you to find buyers. Because the worst thing you can do is if you put someone on the list, like say you put me on your list and you call me 3 times and all your deals are $30K too high. Like probably the next time you call me, I might just be like, hey, let me put a block on that. I'm tired to mess with him. Because that's just the truth. I got a lot of people calling me and I can't really take every phone call. But now you send me a deal and the numbers look good. Whether we do that deal or not, I'm answering every one of your calls. Because I'm like, he knows the numbers. So like when he calls me, he has something that's close. That's all I really care about. As long as you're in the ballpark. But I've had most people call me are like, hey, I want 150. And I'm like, it's 90. It's that far off. Now you call me and say I want 100 and it's 90. I'll take every phone call you ever bring to me. Because I'll know like when I talk with you, we're close. Right? We might have to hammer some stuff out, but we can work it out enough that it'll be worth me talking to you. That's how most other people think too, by the way. Right? They have to pick who they deal with. So be the guy who knows the numbers, be the guy who really, or female, who also knows, like make sure you know what you're doing, and you'll garner respect from a handful of people. And that's all you need to be in this business is 3 to 5 people who are serious buyers that you can go find deals for. Then once you have that, you just keep moving it. I'll go ahead and then you next. Okay. Oh, sorry, go ahead. 25 is my minimum. Yeah, 25 to 30 is like my minimum, just depending on how much work it is. Right? If it's a lot of work, then it might be even higher. The minimum is usually attached to like if it's 100K in work, then it's a 50K minimum. Most of the stuff I'm buying is 40 to 60K in work, so 25 to 30K is usually my minimum. And I'm okay with that. If I can consistently pump that out, I'm more than fine making. Look, if I make 20K and it's a $20,000 renovation, I would do that all day long. I generally never go under 20K because, like, just with the variables we have, like under 20K gets very risky. So I hope that answers your question. So over here, then. It does not. I'm going to give you an easier way than that. Because I can tell you, I did a training on that with within my group, on my higher level group, and we spent 7 hours on that training. And then people were like, we need to see it again. So it's like, that's not an easy training to give. Yes. I'm going to show you how, without knowing the answers to all that, like, right, I'm going to show you how to click a button, it'll say new roof, and it's going to automatically just put in what you need. So yes, it'll handle that for you, but in a simpler way. Right? Because if we make it too complex, first of all, you won't use it. We don't want you to have like 6 months before you feel comfortable enough to use it. I want you to leave the training and be comfortable enough to know that number. And that's how we keep it really simple. And that's what I do for acquisitions people because they don't have time to figure it out over 8 months. They want to learn it like in a week so they can start making offers. Like Rashad was making his offers in a couple of days. So that's all it takes. So there's someone over here who was next. Oh, sorry, go back here.
I just want to say I'm new. This is my first time here. I'm new to this flipping thing. I'm actually a realtor.
Okay.
Trying to get into this whole side of the business. But if anybody needs a realtor to partner up with, help you run comps, CMAs, stuff like that, be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, there you go. So there's how you get your comps and how you get someone to work with. There's multiple realtors in the room, by the way. Yeah, so plenty. Good.
So Mike, would you say it's also vital to have your team pretty much lined up, your funding, as well as contractor, and as well as your
so you want to have, the most important part is you got to start finding deals, and then I tend to line those things up as it's time to do so. So trying to find a contractor and saying, hey man, will you do my work? And then 6 months later you bring a rehab, well that contractor's probably not going to be available then. Right? The contractor you'll need is the one who can meet your pricing but is also available to work for you. Like John's a contractor, he almost did a house. We were like messing around and he got busy doing his own stuff and we couldn't work with him because of that. It was just timing, right? I mean, like we're very close on pricing. He's a good guy. He knows, I don't know if you work for anyone else anymore. I know he does a lot of his own stuff now. But, it was a lot of timing. And that's how most good contractors like John are going to be, right? They're going to work with you if they're free, but if they're not free, so it would be best to look for them when you actually have a house. Because now you can say specifically, like, here's the house, it settles in 2 weeks, you would start then. We're talking real. We're not saying, theoretically, I'm going to, because they might look and say, he's never going to have a house. I don't know if he will or he won't. They might consider not take you serious. So I tend to build most of my team. Like, the contractor is the hardest person to get. Finding a realtor, finding, like, a title company and all that, that's really simple. Like, if you come here and just ask anyone in the room, and I'll literally just, here's who you can use for this, and this, these are go-to people, and you're done, your team's built. It's really simple because I only work with the best title companies and realtors. There's multiple people in the room. Like I said, you should walk out of here with at least 1 or 2 contacts to make sure. Sorry, John, you had a question?
Well, as far as if you got your signature on something, then I'll come in.
Yeah.
If you don't, then no. Or I will, but I will. So
yeah.
I have a service like people have wanted me to come and look at their project just for that purpose. And I said, well, is it under contract? No. I said, if it's not, then I'll come, but I'm going to charge you for that time. But if you purchase that house and you use me as your contractor, I give that money back to you.
Yeah. What do you charge? Yeah. How much do you charge?
It's usually an hourly charge. It's like $75 an hour.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty fair, to be honest.
Somewhere between 2 and 4 hours.
Yeah.
Depends on what you want written up on the back.
Sure.
How much time it takes you to write it up.
Yeah. So.
But if you just want a ballpark.
There's your point, though, right, of what we're talking about here. You need a simple, fast way to not have to call John until you get the deal under contract, and then you bring John in because he'll do it for free then versus charging you $75 to $150.
Yeah, sorry. My real question was in relation to wholesaling. What method is do you find is the best for settlement? When I've been reading a lot about people having issues when they go to a settlement and the purchasers see how much money the wholesaler is going to make on this deal.
Yeah. What I've changed over about 4 years to doing this is like, you'll have a lot of questions around this, but I'll just expose you to it now, and then it's something you'll have to read up on. Instead of doing a normal assignment of contract where we just literally assign the contract to someone else, that comes up on the HUD. So if you're making $20K, yes, the seller will see you made $20,000. So I did that for years, and how I handled that for years is I just had a really good script and said something along the lines of, they're like, well, what is this $20,000? And I'd be like, well, I'm working with a partner, and they pay me in advance, and it has nothing to do. You're still getting the same money we agreed upon. And they'll be like, okay, no problem. But let's say then eventually I got tired of having those conversations because I stopped going to settlement. So there was no one to say that, right? And say, and so then it got weird. So we started doing assignments of LLCs. We would buy it in an LLC that we would create just to buy the property. And then I sell the LLC to like John. Now he gets this LLC named 123 Main Street. And when you sell that, you're selling the LLC and not the property. You're just selling the LLC that owns the property. So it doesn't go on the HUD, whatever you're making, which is really nice to not to have that kind, especially if you're making like 50 or 60K. I bought a wholesale deal last Wednesday from one of my students, and he made $55,000 on it. And I was like, hey, dude, where did you get that contract you're using? Because it literally said, I am selling to you for $130,000, and I am making $55,000 on it. And I'm like, well, it's me, so I don't care. I'm like really happy because it's my student, right? I'm impressed. I'm so like happy he's making that money. But imagine he sent that to some random investor and they get mad because he's making too much. So I was like, hey, why are you not using the one I gave you when you were in the training? He's like, oh, I've used this one before. I'm like, no, go to this one. This one doesn't show what you're making. And then make sure it's an assignment of LLC. So because like literally I know that like if you take 10 investors, like there's going to be a couple at least of the 10 that are going to go crazy because he was making that money. I'm the only guy who's super happy because as his coach, I'm very happy for him that he's making $55,000. But I'm still got a good deal, by the way. I got a really good deal. So it's good for all of us. Okay. Say, do I have what kind of system?
So you put every house in its own
wholesaling. If I'm wholesaling.
Is there an easy way to do that without having?
Yeah. Online, you can do it 5 minutes online now. Yeah, you used to have to go down there and sit in line and deal with that for a while, but not anymore. They made it online. It's super easy. So, good.
Have you done it in a trust before?
I haven't done it in a trust. I used to have one a long time ago, a trust I did with, and I found it was more issues than I would have expected. The guy had sold me the trust, said it would be so easy, but no one understood it, and everyone gave me a lot of crap about it, so eventually we stopped doing that. And there was like a weird way you could do it, but the problem is a lot of the title companies and like even trying to sell someone on the fact that you're going to sell them an LLC is going to require you saying and doing the right things to them so they're not sketched out by it, right? But when you get to the trust, it gets even sketchier because people don't trust anything they don't understand, right? So the reality is it's a little easier to understand the LLC transfer than it is the trust. So trust can work, it's just more complicated and harder to explain, and it's also way more expensive to do. It's not like cheap to do a trust. Well, I think if you do it yourself, but usually it's complicated. I can't personally. I paid like $1,500 to get a trust built for me. So the LLC costs $150, and you can take 3 minutes to get online. And then here's the thing: usually when I assign it, they pay me the $150 back that I spent on it. So there'll be assignment fee plus they're paying for the LLC, since they're getting it. No one has ever said anything about the $150, and I'm just happy that I'm not losing $150 on every house I wholesale, because I'm like, that adds up, right, Joel? Eventually, it'll be like, I didn't make any profit this year. I lost it in the 150s. How about anyone else? Any other questions? Who's on the fence about buying the deal analyzer? Who's like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm missing something. Yeah, good.
I have a question. Ever since I heard this, that people are other analyzers.
Yeah.
What's different from yours that makes it unique?
So every other analyzer I've ever seen was a product they were selling, and they literally were selling the product because it just made it simple, and it was very easy, right? They would show you this, but it was never accurate. It wasn't a real tool they used in their business. And this is what's different about this. I use this tool every day. There's multiple students in this audience you can pull to the side, and she uses this tool every day. It works perfect, right? And like, there's Gail, ask Gail, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's because I didn't invent it to make $47 off of it, right? I spent probably $250,000 in energy and time developing this, but it was because I'm making a lot of money as a house flipper. It wasn't so I could say, hey, give me $47, because it would have never paid for itself, right? I don't really sell this for $47, but what I do with it is I make a lot of money buying houses. So it's not your common offer, right? I'm giving this today, like I said, it's a small marketing test. I'm not going to do it forever. You won't see me every month trying to sell you a $47 product. I just thought, we talked about it. My coach, who I work with, said, hey, why don't you give some people to see what your coaching would be like and give them a very affordable way to experience what you have. And some people just use it. You'll crush it, use it in your business. Maybe you decide you want to work with me in the future. So this becomes, for me, my gift to you, to show you like what I'm about and how like detailed our systems are. And you'll see it in the analyzer. So it's meant to do that job. It's not meant to make $47. If it doesn't perform and it doesn't do everything I said, we got a money back guarantee. So like, maybe you use it and it sucks and it's like every other deal analyzer, just call me. I'll give you the $47 back. 100% guarantee, 30 days, check it out, and I'll let you keep it, by the way. So like, just keep it. You'll probably throw it in the trash if you hate it enough to get the 47 back. But let's just say you don't like it. There's no risk for you, because I want you to use it and I want you to experience it. Go ahead, and then I'll go to you, then the class. So you first, sorry. I've looked at almost every analyzer before I developed this, because it would have been a lot easier for me to just take someone else's and just like, that's awesome, right? I got this analyzer. The foundation of this analyzer came from Fortune Builders. I spent $32,000 to get this analyzer. And then I spent a lot of money and years and time taking it from the foundational one they gave me that didn't work very well and turning it into something that's a tool I use in my business every day. So this is really a tool now that's been developed specifically with an underwriting criteria. That's one thing analyzers don't have too, by the way, is the underwriting criteria that tells you where they'll all just do 70%. Right? You've seen in some situations we got to be at 65, and some we can be at 74. So that underwriting is definitely going to be one of the major differences. It's telling you how to adjust your offer according to the neighborhood. And that came through a lot of years of experience that I could write that underwriting criteria. It works really well. I use it all the time. It's why I have very consistent results. So it's you, and then I'll go to you, and then you next. So I have multiple. Usually if someone's interested, just give me a call and we'll talk. I'll usually do like an hour discovery call with you. And more importantly, it really is a matter of what you're looking to get. Like, if you just want to get started, I have some really cheap stuff that I can give you that'll give you a ton of information for a very affordable price. If somebody wants to work with me at a really high level, we're just like every day building your business out, then that costs more, obviously. But so it's always good to start with a call and just see, and then I can really explain. But I teach people, how to flip houses. Right? I mean, everyone who's ever gotten my program, 85% of people get in, they make their money back instantly. And that's the reason for that, because for the longest time, I guaranteed you made your money back. There's no coach that does that. Like, literally, you spend money with me, you don't get it back, you stay in the program. That's what I did for many years. So. Well, they're all the same way, right? But it's how much access to me costs more. If you're with me working personally once a week and we're really scaling it's going to cost more. Then if you want to do group sessions with me and 5 other people, that's a different cost. It's going to be more affordable. Most people choose, like Sabrina's in a group, and it costs a little bit of money, but she's made it back multiple times. She's done many deals, just like everyone in the group. Everyone in the group makes money. I'm also very specific. One thing you get out of the reason I do the hour call instead of just selling it to you, you go to any other coach and they're like, my program's this much and you want to buy it, they're going to sell it to you. I don't actually do that because, see, I'm making all my money flipping houses, not coaching. And I don't want you as a student if you're not in the right place to be a great student. This is why my success rate's really high. I pick the right people to coach. If you need to work through some stuff, then I'm going to help you work through it in a free manner so that way you're not wasting money until you get to the right place. So that's why I do that call. It takes a lot of my time to do those calls, but what it does, it ensures that the group of people we work together, they inspire each other, and it's a really awesome group. There's no negative people in the group. We're all getting results because I'm handpicking the people to be in the group. Now, the good news is if I say, hey, you're not ready, I'll give you a nice action plan, and you get all that for free in the call we do. And I'll say, here's some steps. Do those and come back to me in 30 days. And if you do them, I'll get you in. And if you don't, which a lot of people don't, then I'll know that you weren't ready yet, and that you need to work through some stuff. Because I don't want you to jump in and not get any results and then be mad at me, right? I want you to be able to get these results. That's why I coach. It's not for the money. I make a lot of money flipping. I make little money coaching. I keep it really affordable. Yeah. So we always do stuff like on Zoom because a lot of people, you live in PG County, if we were saying, hey, let's meet at the Denny's in Pasadena, it's really far. You're sitting in traffic, so we do Zoom. Second benefit of Zoom is it's recorded, so if you can't make it Thursday at 4 when we're doing a training for an hour or two, you can watch it later, right? We keep it really that way everyone can benefit. With that being said, we do an in-field training once a month, where we'll go out, we'll look at houses, I'll walk you through the house, I'll show you exactly how to estimate it. We really do get in detail. The secret to why the training works so well is that whatever you need so you can get results, I'll give to you. If you go through my academy that I have, and it's called the Flip Factor Academy, and if you go through that academy and you're like, Mike, it doesn't teach this, you just call me and I'm going to add it. It's that simple. There's nothing it's missing because the academy's purpose is not to sell you a product, it's to get you a result. Because every time you get a result, I get personal benefit of being like, hey, I've helped someone. I've given back. Right? Yes, you paid for it, but did you really pay for it? If you spend $5,000 and you make $100, you didn't really pay for it. You invested and made a wise investment. But that's really on me as your coach to make sure that happens. And that's where I'm different from every other coach. Most people are just selling a product. It's a business to them. They sell you the product. It's on you to figure it out. That's how my first coach was. It wasn't him who made me succeed. He gave me the information, but I had to go make it work. Because he was just selling a product, and I just was lucky enough that I did not want to continue to be poor. So I was like, I'm going to fight hard for this, and I did. And eventually, when I cracked the code, I've had better coaches since then that I've learned, and that's how I coach is based on the best coaches I've had. And they're the ones that work with me, but they're very tied to me getting results. They don't care about the coaching. They're like, coach with me or not. They're very abundant coaches. They're not trying to sell you some, make some money. They're really trying to get your result because they're tied to your personal results. I'm very tied to the personal results. That's why I don't let everyone in, because I want to make sure you get those results. If you don't get them, then I feel bad, right? And then it takes the value of what I'm doing here away. That's why I do these for free and I don't charge, right? I pay for this every month so you guys can get this value. Yeah. On the courthouse steps, I do some. I don't recommend it when you're new. It's a little higher level play. It's very risky play. Because often you have to buy it sight unseen and put a really big deposit down. So I don't recommend it when you're new. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so here's the, and then I'll tell you, that sounds like logical in theory, but the reality is, so how I protect myself is, let me say I use this sheet. It says I should make a $125K offer. Right? I go make the offer and they say, Mike, we've accepted your offer. Okay, well, what do you have to do next? You got to send a deposit, right? When I go to send a deposit, what do I have the opportunity to do now? I get to go back to the house and make sure everything I thought was right before I give them the deposit and make it real. So this is my window that I'm able to be real safe. Now, when you do an auction property, like you bid and you win, they're like, yeah, give us $10,000 non-refundable, and you might not even see the inside of the house. So it's pretty tricky. Yeah, it's very tricky. The ones you can go see, honestly, they're hard because, anytime people are in that competitive environment we just talked about, they tend to overpay. So I've probably been to 100 auctions. I've not won one. So it's a little bit, there are easier routes, right? And that's what I teach in the coaching, the easiest route to get deals. I'm not saying auctions are bad, but like if we've got 6 ways to get deals, let's pick the easiest one to start with, right? Because the hardest one, you do that when all the easy ones are gone. Like I've done auctions, but I didn't do it until I exhausted. When I was doing 130 deals a year and I wanted to go to 150, well, I exhausted all the easy stuff, so I had to go to the hard stuff. But when you're just trying to do 10 deals a year, start with the easiest thing to do to get 10 deals a year. It'll make you love this business more because it'll be easier. So someone else had any questions? Anyone who wants it, Delante's back there if you want to take an order sheet with you. Again, it's a limited time test. We're keeping it super cheap so you can use it. It'll come with a nice training. You'll be able to interact with me, and we'll get you knowing the numbers at a really high level. Because the reality is that not everyone goes over budget. Not everyone gets the numbers wrong. Like really great flippers who've done hundreds of homes do not. And you've got to start there. Because if you can start getting the numbers correct, you're going to make money. If you accept that the market does whatever you want and you're out of control, then you become a victim. Right? And I was a victim for many years. And I tell this from my own experience, not as judgment, but I was a victim. And when I went from not being a victim to taking control of my destiny, I got very specific about all these things, right? And how they work and what they work for. Okay? Oh, sorry. Gail, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, anybody who's not bought the program was sending out yesterday. I think on your website, multi-years that I put on.
Yeah.
I took the paper entitled.
Okay.
The rehab, the $20,000 assignment.
Nice job, Gail.
Was actually, when he finished going through the house, it was $50 less than what I actually
Wow.
did.
Really?
That was all of it. That was the 6 deals I had closed with.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the highest fee.
No, and she's not a shill, by the way. She's actually a real student. We didn't plan her here. But no, thank you, Gail. I'm really happy for you. Great job. So thank you guys for coming. If you have any questions, I'll hang out for a bit and answer any questions. If anybody wants to just talk to me privately or, we're in a group, I guess. But thank you guys. Have a safe, good day.